Yeah,
Okay.
that threw us
We're
there
in.
a little bit.
We're in. We're live.
Are we live?
Welcome to YouTube.
I can't see it on the Hop Edition podcast YouTube page yet.
You should be able to see it right now.
Yeah, it's just popped up.
No.
Owen's internet's broken.
No, there it is.
Yep.
Boomsies.
Boomsy, boomsy, boomsy. Okay. Good game, good game. Oh yeah, I need a beer, don't I?
Changes.
Well, Jay Fork's in.
J Fox in. He's on it like a car bonnet.
He's not watching the Champions League final.
Rapid.
That's because it's puffball and nobody wants to watch it. Oh shit! Did I say that one out loud? Did I say that out loud? Who's playing in it?
City and Chelsea.
All English final, isn't it?
Nobody cares.
Yeah. No one cares.
Let's move on.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Nobody
The English
gives
team
a
going to win anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Well, you can't really call Chelsea an English team, and you can't really call City an English team. There's maybe two English players on each side, but you know. Are we doing this one first?
Well, we need to start recording on the actual podcast.
Yeah, get the podcast going first.
Yeah, we're doing that.
All right, that's cool. Right then. Right, quick check. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Awesome.
Right, we've got Richard Brooks and Luke Stevens on as well. Good evening.
Yes, lads.
The hardcore fans.
Lads.
Good evening, Luke. Good evening, Richard. Good evening, J Fork.
Jesper. He's in. We're in. We're good to go. Okay, has everybody got Audacity open? Everybody know everything cool? We all good to go? Headphones on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm going to open my window because it's quite hot in here. Ooh.
Gnome Brewing. Who's Gnome Brewing? Who brews gnomes? Why are you brewing gnomes? How do you brew gnomes?
Maybe he brews really tiny beers.
This is true. Thimblefuls of beer. Gary Doyle's in. Gary Doyle.
Good evening,
Sounds
Gary. Good evening,
moderately
Gnome.
Irish. And good evening. We've made it across the water. We're in Ireland now. Okay, right then. Countdown for Audacity in 3, 2, 1, go. Owen, I do believe it is your turn.
I think that's your cue.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh dear. Right. Good evening, listeners. We are about to embark on episode 28. I'm looking at my co-hosts, 28.
Yes.
Maybe.
Maybe.
And this evening, we are going to be talking about the state of brewing, or as I titled this episode, the state of the Hop Edition Union.
Very nice.
Did you like that?
Yeah.
Loving it.
It's a good one, that.
We'll have to work out who's the president and who's going to make a speech for a little while.
I'm not orange enough, but judging by Tricky's forehead,
It's been in the sun.
it's gone orange.
Is Joe Biden orange?
I think that's the lighting in here.
Blame the lights. Not the
Brilliant.
sound engineer's problem. That's the lighting guy.
That's
So
definitely
yeah, we're going to be having a good wander right through kind of what's new in homebrew right now, and what's also new for our homebrewing game. How you all doing this evening, gents?
very well, thank you.
I'm rocking.
Do you want to say hi to our listeners?
A little bit tired here.
Hi, listeners.
Yeah. How was the?
I was on the Nipas. I was getting Nippa'd out my nut last night.
No. Andy, you weren't on the Neepers. What were you?
Monda Bebes!
I'm a hombre.
Oh, wait there. Andy's got all serious face. He's lost audio or something. Have you broken it, Andy? He's broken it. Something's broken.
I don't think you can hear us.
I think he's just lost his hearing through having such a severe hangover.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Who knows? We're having some technical difficulties, people.
He's
Again.
bleeped his ears.
No,
We're gonna be
Andy's
able-
broken.
I'm going to have sort of post podcast edits. Probably edit this bit out.
I'll be honest, I ain't doing the editing on this one. Tricky is. Probably be ready in July.
Well delegated there.
Don't hold your breath, listeners.
Yeah. You might see this one before Christmas. You never know. You're looking a raffle. Oh, for God's sake, what is with my phone? Give up.
Andy says audio has stopped recording.
Your sound's gone. Your audio. Literally, have you killed your sound card? I think he's killed his sound card.
Obviously can't hear us either.
Just can't
Well, this is
rely
going
on
really well.
on Macs these days, can you?
I hope you're all enjoying this debacle so far.
Yeah, I'm having a beer.
Well, it seems only right on a homebrewing podcast. What are you pouring there?
I don't know. It's some bottle. I got this off of a Muppet that I know.
Really?
Yeah, and it says hop tester 5%.
Huh. So it's a pretty crap name, if I'm
Don't
totally
talk
honest.
about it just yet, though. Let's wait until Andy's back in the house.
I just want to say my olfactory senses are suitably aroused.
The nose is twitching.
Yeah, and it's not because I'm a rabbit. That smells really rather nice, that does, Tricky.
What are you drinking, Tricky?
It's the beer that you're all going to be drinking shortly, hopefully.
Can you hear us yet, Andy?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, mate. We got you.
So I've lost all my recording and everything.
Don't worry about it. 4 minutes and it was about 4 minutes and 11 seconds you joined us.
Right.
Have you started recording yet?
No, but I can do it now.
Okay.
Yeah,
wait until I tell you. Let's get to 4:30. Hit the record now.
There we go.
So 4
Bingo.
minutes 30, Tricky. Remember that.
Back in the room.
Yeah, maybe I'll write that down.
Do I need to redo the intro? I hope not.
Yeah, see, because you lost all my audio from the start.
I'm not sure. Did you actually say anything, Andy? Or
Yeah.
you did?
Yeah, just go again.
Okay, we'll start again.
We'll start again. Why not?
Do you want to lead us in there, Owen?
Choose all where to stop. Oh no, just go with that.
Tricky old manager. He's good at this audio editing.
Yeah, we'll just delete the first 25 minutes or whatever we've been
4 minutes
warbling on
30.
about fuck all.
Sorry,
Anyway,
guys. I don't know why the fuck it crashed.
right, take two. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 28 of the Hop Edition podcast. I'm here with my compadres, Chris, Andy, and Tricky.
Yo.
Say hello, everyone.
Hello.
Good evening.
So what are we going to be talking about tonight? We are covering the state of brewing. And I actually called this episode The State of the Hop Edition Union. You see what I did there?
I did.
State of the Union. It was good. So we're going to be talking about what's new in homebrew right now. We'll probably talk a little bit about what's new in commercial beer and just beer in general. And also talk a bit about what's new in our home brewing. So, let's get into it, guys.
Let's do it.
So what's up first, then? I've heard that we've got some kind of orchestrated, organised fun.
Well, the last I heard, one of the members of the Hop Edition team, a bearded member who doesn't sound like he wants to shout freedom all the time, decided...
That narrows it down a bit, doesn't it?
Decided to. Well, I don't know. I've got kind of a pseudo pathetic Mexican porn star beard at the moment. But
pedo beard, yeah.
Give up, fucking hell! It's about the 20th time you call me a pedo on this podcast, man. And basically, Tricky sent out to each of us a bottle, which looks like this. It just says hop tester 5% in a placky bottle. And I do believe that we're all about to put this into our glasses and then we're all about to drink. And then Tricky's going to tell us it was fermented with Voss at 42 degrees under 85 bar. And it's a pseudo lager. That's what he's going to tell us, I reckon.
That's not what I'm going to be telling you.
Yeah,
I'll
it must
give
be a pseudo lager.
I'll give you a little bit of context while you're
Go on,
sort of
then.
having a sniff or whatever and getting into the glass.
Label out.
So it's basically a sort of golden pale ale brewed with 3.5 kilos of Pilsner malt, 300 grams of Munich malt, 200 grams of caramel. So it's a very simple grist, basically just kind of golden ale, pale ale sort of grist to try and let the hops shine out a bit. US05 for the yeast, because I want to basically make this recipe repeatable when we do this with other hops and stuff. It has all of the mystery hop in question as late additions. I only used 100 grams of it, so it's basically going to be 100 grams each time I do this kind of hop tester type beer. And the late additions are divided up, so 15 grams at 10 minutes, 15 at 5 minutes, 30 grams at a 20-minute whirlpool at 80 degrees, and then 40 grams into the dry hop. So it's not a ridiculously high hopping rate, but it should be enough to give you an idea of like the potency of the hop and how it sort of performs, I guess, in a typical sort of pale ale, golden ale type hopping schedule. The bittering, I have used a little bit of Columbus in at the bittering. So my theory with this is whatever hop I use late, I will be able to basically equalize the bittering with the Columbus addition at the beginning. And it's only going to be a small amount because Columbus is so high alpha anyway.
Thought
so
about this, hasn't he?
7 grams. There was a lot of thinking went into this one. So why don't you guys all have a little sniff and maybe a taster, and then just try and think of what comes into your head first in terms of aroma and flavour and see.
Floral. It's a little bit floral, I think. But
I'm getting fruitiness off of it. A definite fruitiness on the note. As soon as I opened the bottle, I got a lot of fruitiness.
Mm-hmm.
It really it jangled my olfactory bells. It was really rather nice.
So what I'm quite interested in with this is obviously I know what it is, so you get a sort of preconceived idea of what it's going to be like based on the description and where the hop is from and all that kind of stuff. So I'm quite interested to see how you guys kind of perceive it without that background knowledge, if you know what I mean.
I think it's very. I would say it's maybe a UK hop that's one of these. My guess it's a UK hop that's one of the new, and it's fruity, but it's not like punch in your face fruitiness. It's just like it's a nice subtle fruitiness that goes through. It's got that kind of almost kind of floral fruit sort of. It's not like you're kind of punch in the face citrus fruits or anything.
No, it's not leaping out the glass, which indicates to me that perhaps it's possibly an English hop.
Yeah.
But I'm picking up a little bit of licorice.
It is. I guess it's only like bearing in mind it's only 40 grams in the dry hop as well. It's, maybe not as heavy.
Like a red berry.
You might get with other beers that.
Yeah.
Like pale ales and IPAs and so on.
I'll be honest, I didn't know Magnum could taste this good late in a boil. No, it's I'm getting like a creamy note.
Yeah.
Almost like kind of like Sabro gives you that creamy note,
right,
but with more fruit compared to Sabro, because Sabro is very earthy, nutty, kind of almost coconut. Yeah, you all know what
coconut
like.
And quite herbal, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of thank you, rosemary. That's what I get when I drink Sabro. I get like an almost like when you cook a steak and you put rosemary in the butter and you baste the crap out of it. That almost rosemary kind of herby kind of that kind of note. But with this, I'm getting borderline pina colada kind of creaminess with a little bit of fruit.
It's all very subdued. Like that's you like picking that right out, because to me it tastes like a really nice kind of English pale ale, but like a nice fruity English pale ale, almost kind of EKG, but not it's got more modern kind of flavors, I would say.
So, any specific fruit flavors that you're getting off of it?
Yeah, like, I think I'm getting a bit of a almost red berry. I'm getting a licorice thing.
I can see where you pick. I can see where you're saying licorice. I can smell.
Yeah, it's probably
That kind of
more.
thing.
It's probably more on the aroma than it is on the flavour. I agree with Andy. It's more of a subtle. It's actually quite hard to pick out.
I'm
Any
getting
particularly distinct flavours.
weirdly. You know when you get a super ripe, like Kanzo pear. You probably never had a Kanzo. Okay, really, really super sweet Japanese pears, Kanzo pears. They're lovely. They're really, really nice. Damn flies. I'm getting almost that sweetness with kind of a hint of almost pear, but not quite pear.
Oh yeah.
You see what I mean?
That's it. That is it, Chris. It's that kind of pear thing that just in the nose.
It's almost like what's that pear tart? Like a French.
A tart tatin.
Yes. It's like the sweetness of the malt is just like merging nicely with that like pear note.
We're not
It's
getting
almost
any
like-
pastry though.
No.
No, but like almost that kind of like slightly caramelized thing that you get.
Oh,
It's
really-
not bad. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd fucking smash a few pints of this, I'll be honest. It's
Very
a lovely
drinkable,
base,
yeah.
Tricky. It's a
Yeah.
really nice base.
It's not too far off my sort of standard kind of golden ale recipe that I've
Mhm.
kind of used
Yeah.
quite a lot, but I'd sort of simplified it even more. Like I said, just to make it something that I could sort of repeat quite easily. So that if we do this again, we've got the same base beer
What's this if
sort of
shit?
that we're working from.
Yeah.
When we
what's
do
this-
it again,
Yeah, thank you.
I've got
I
about
like
3 or
it.
4 other hops already lined up for it. So
You're going to have to tell us what this hop is.
okay, well, what do you all think that it's UK? Are you all,
I think so.
I'm not
Yeah.
entirely convinced. I'm
It's-
getting,
I think it is.
and me and Tricky have talked about this a lot. You know the lime.
Oh, you getting the New Zealand thing?
I'm getting. I don't know whether it's pear or whether it could be construed as lime, but it's tasting like pear because of the malt bill, because of that caramel.
Yeah.
If the caramel's sweetening off that lime flavour, it may well give you Kanzo pear. Just saying.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced it's UK, but at the same time, I'm
Yeah.
not convinced it's New Zealand either.
okay? So somewhere in between UK and New Zealand.
I mean, Peru. It's
Wow.
a Peruvian hop.
Nothing like sitting on the fence. I think
like
it's
feeling that post up my ass.
somewhere between the North and South Pole.
It's from Poland. It's Polish.
Come on,
Anyone
Tricky.
got any guesses for a specific variety or?
I don't think that this is Australian. Sorry, not Australian. I don't think this is American.
Is it
No.
going to be like? See, for me, I would be guessing that it's one of the new British varieties that would be.
Talus?
That's an
No.
American one, isn't it? I think.
No, I don't think it's
thought Talus
Talus.
was
I'd
No,
probably
is it
go,
Harlequin?
I'd probably go Harlequin or
Yeah,
Olicana or
It's definitely not Olicana.
don't know.
Harlequin.
So it's not a UK hop.
Ah,
It is a New Zealand hop.
Of course it was.
Well done, Chris.
Cheers, mate.
It is in fact Nectaron.
Fucking hell!
Okay.
Yes!
So yeah, well done on
Interesting.
picking out that sort of limey thing, Chris, because that was
Yeah.
definitely something that I got when I was
It's
tasting.
faint.
Like I
It
said,
is.
it is interesting because I had obviously that information in my head when I first tried it, and I'm like, oh yeah, it tastes of lime and like New Zealand tropical
Yeah.
flavors and all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
But you guys, without that kind of, do you know what I mean, like preconceived bias,
oh, it's the line there.
have got a lot of different notes off of that, which is really interesting.
We got there in the
Um,
end. Well, I did.
But yeah, Chris sort of sussed it out, or he was halfway there anyway.
Well, now you say it,
Um,
like when you give it a good whiff,
Yeah, you get
you
the
are
lime.
actually getting. Well, I'm actually getting some nectarine,
Peppery. It's
Well,
like a peppery lime.
but I
So-
thought perhaps it was the malt bill providing that kind of.
Nectaron
smell.
is, I think this one was about 11% AA, so it's fairly high, as most of the newer sort of varieties are, alpha acids. The description is intense tropical passion fruit and citrus aroma characters. So interestingly, they don't actually mention nectarine, despite the name of
Tropical,
it.
though, isn't it? Tropical.
They just talk about high levels of tropical fruit characters, pineapple, passion fruit, as well as stone fruit, peach. So I guess you can get your nectarine there as well, and citrus grapefruit. A full sister plant to Waimea hops. So
Waimea.
there you go.
Really cool.
I have actually had this hop before.
In a
I
commercial
reviewed
beer, or
no, I reviewed a beer from a friend from work, and he made a beer with, I think it was straight nectar on actually, and I really enjoyed it. But I think he might have dry hopped it quite a bit more than yours. I think it was more of a hazy pale ale.
I think what's interesting is obviously with a much more sort of restrained kind of hopping schedule, because it's limited to a 100-gram packet. I think you probably do get that more subdued sort of approach, and probably
I'll be honest with you,
are a little bit.
My beers that contain this hop are not going to be limited to a 100-gram packet.
Half a kilo.
They might be limited to a kilo packet, but that's really nice. And the weird thing is, with the nectarine or the nectaron, the supposed stone fruit, tropical stone fruit kind of thing, you do get an element of creaminess from a nectarine when you eat it. You do, because of the flesh. It gives you that element. That's actually a really, really, really this is a really well-named hop. They've clearly thought about this a lot. I love that. That's really nice. I'm going to order half kilo of Nectaron. You guys talk.
You might struggle with that, but as you've got friends in New Zealand, Chris, I think you might be the only one who can actually probably get hold of it.
Mate, I got relies in New Zealand. I get kilos of the shit.
Yeah. But
well, sort us out then, Chris.
Cheers.
I'll see what I can do.
2 kilos, 500 grams each. Done.
So when I was first trying this, I actually thought that there was some elements of it that reminded me a little bit of Nelson as well. So I did kind of get a slightly kind of grapey, kind of maybe gooseberry type thing on it as well. That can kind of be the limey type flavour too. But
that's a really nice hop.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sort of. Shut up.
Kind of reminded me a little bit of a bit of a crossover between Ruaka and Nelson in some ways, but yeah, again, with those sort of hops, you tend to have them in a much higher hopping rate in beer, so I think you get a slightly different impression of
that's so
what
weird.
they might be like on this.
Yeah, definitely changes as you drink it. See, as you're saying that, you start to pick out those notes.
Yeah.
It's not.
I think obviously it would be really interesting to see this in a much like more fuller-bodied, hazy kind of Nipah type base. It would probably come out a heck of a lot more juicy, sort of really sweet, full-on kind of tropical fruit. Whereas this beer is very kind of like quite a dry sort of. I mean, it's basically kind of like a lager base, really, more than anything else. And I think that sort of keeps the hop flavors quite sort of more sharper rather than sweeter, perhaps.
That's actually what I was going to say, because I'm sort of picking out some similarities with my New Zealand Pilsner that I've got on tap at the moment.
Yeah.
Oh God, I see.
I think if I actually brewed this with a lager yeast, it would be a cracking like hoppy lager or IPL, whatever. Probably not enough hops in it for Chris to call it an IPL, but
not even close.
No.
Oh, he's muted.
Or enough quake. Anyway, that was brilliant, and it appears to have gone down well with the current audience on YouTube. 10 quid for 100 grams and out of stock at the Malt Miller. I've just bobbed an email to my cuz, see if he can hook me up. Just one thing before we move on. Mr. Luke Stevens has just cracked his first ever can. He's popped his Waikika Moo Cow Cherry. So, Luke, you're gonna have to let us know in the chat what you thought of the old Moo Cow, and then we can move on. So,
Luke and I were having a little Facebook chat earlier. He picked up some beers from my house the other day.
Nice.
and drop some off. In fact, I've got a beer.
You get the raspberry?
I've got a beer right here
Is it the raspberry
from
sour?
Luke. It's the raspberry Philly sour.
Yes.
He was drinking my New Zealand Pilsner in the sun, which I think he picked the perfect weather for that beer.
I'm gonna have the Philly sour whilst I'm chilled out watching TV, because I have a feeling that's going to be a banger of a beer, and I don't want to ruin it by vaping my tits off, because I'm not allowed to vape in the house. So I want to enjoy that one sort of an hour after I've vaped. I want to taste that one. So
it was categorized as a TV beer.
That's TV beer, yeah.
TV beer.
TV beer.
Now, I think the next thing that we need to do is we need to get this. We're 23 minutes in. I think we need to get the ITAP competition over and done with.
Let's do it.
What do you reckon?
Yes.
Right. Let me see if I can't share the screen. Select the screen to share. We're going to go with the Chrome tab, which is that one. We're going to share that one. Now, I hope this is big enough for you all to be able to see. Yeah, I really do hope so. In fact, can I blow that up so it's full screen? No, apparently not. I can do that with myself, but I can't do it with anything else.
I'm excited.
So, there were 73 people who signed up for the ITAP competition. All you had to do was subscribe to our newsletter. That was all you had to do. And in case you haven't noticed, for those of you who've entered, you've not had a newsletter from me yet. Because I'm not the kind
is yet to begin.
I'm not the kind of person. I despise it when people send me shit and I don't want it. So all we're going to do is we're going to use it to you. Oh, he says Waikikamukai was very nice. A little bit more bitter, but certainly would buy it again. Of course you would. It's best beer in the UK. So let's get on to the random wheel of fortune, and let's click to spin. So all the names, as you can see, are all down this side. We have Stevie Burton, Brett Harmon, AIL.com, whoever that is. Oh, that's John Pigford.
Oh, John Denton.
Somebody with a Swedish name that I can't pronounce. Johnny Pollock, Ocean, the anaesthetist that I know. J Fork is in there. Couldn't even put his real name in. Graham's in there. Chris S. Dan Walters. Eric Bennett. There's loads of people in there. Some people tried to enter twice. Nah, not getting past me like that. So here we go. We're going to click to spin.
Ready.
This is for a Bowl ITAP shipped to you direct from Bowl. It will be the crown cap adapter that's on it. If you want the pet bottle adapter, then I'm sure that Bowl will send you one out if you pay for it. Other than that, let's get down there. Let's click to spin. And here we go.
Everybody.
Oh.
Yeah.
And just bear in mind, it will take a few weeks to get here from Russia as well. So don't get worried when it doesn't turn up straight away.
Andy B. Andy B, well done, mate. You have won a Bowl ITAP from Boel, shipped direct to you.
On the stream live at the minute. So
is he on the stream? Where is he? He is. He's here.
So,
Andy, well done, mate.
Andy.
You've just won. That means you now have to listen to us every week in perpetuity. That was part of the contract. And we're signing you up for the human centipede experiment.
And he needs to send us all beer as well.
And
that was all in the small print, was it? On the
it was.
Sign up that he didn't read properly.
I literally copied the contract direct from the South Park episode. So well done, Andy. Good job, mate. And yeah, I will fix that up with, I can't remember her name, from Boel, Marina. And yeah, that should be with you shortly, TM. So there we go. Now I can close that one off, can't I? We don't need that anymore. There we go. That's the ITAP. The first giveaway that's ever been done on the Hop Edition. Done right there, right now. Andy B is the winner. So, what are we on to next?
Well, we're talking about state of brewing. So, where's our home brewing, guys?
That's a very, very deep question. That's quite philosophical.
Deep and broad. It's as deep as it is
in
broad.
My garage at the moment, my home brewing.
Mine is mostly under a gazebo that I bought. which allows me to brew no matter the weather. But I will say, honestly, and this is not me kissing ass, all right? But I have found everything to be much, much easier since I fitted my iTap. Actually being able to send stuff out to people to get a little bit of feedback. The last batch of beer that I sent out was met with almost universal credit.
Wow, Chris. Yeah. Amazing.
Which, to be fair, I wasn't expecting, because there were a couple of those beers that fell short of the standards I expected myself.
No, they were really good.
But the where is my home brewing? My home brewing is plodding along nicely. I've got a few new things. I've got a pH meter, a rather expensive one, which I have acquired, and that's all you need to know.
All right.
And I've recently ordered a 10-litre conical flask, because I can't be outdone by all you guys with your 5 litres.
Plus, why even bother brewing in a fermenter when you can just
do it in a conical?
Brew it in a conical.
And I'm currently at the state where I'm contemplating upgrading from 50 litres to a 100-litre kettle. It probably won't happen, but I am contemplating. I'm thinking about it. Other than that, I'm really happy with where my home brewing is, to be fair. I'm picking a few bits and bobs up as I go along. Some things that I've not done before I've started doing, like measuring gravities. Apparently that really helps. And I'm joking, by the way. I used to do that. I just stopped doing it. And for me, my home brewing is exactly where I want to be, producing beers quick and easy in my custom-built, all-in-one craft beer pie controlled system. So yeah, I'm happy. How about you, Andy?
Yeah. So mine's just constantly evolving. The latest was a insulated mash tun in the system, which seems to just be awesome at holding temps. Even though, like, I've got the PID from the craft beer pie, it's just when you mash in and stuff like that, you don't have to panic to try and get everything recirculating. You can leave it for half an hour, and the thing just stays solid because of the way it's set up. So, really enjoying that at the moment. And yeah, and then also the intertap, got the intertaps in here, so it's a proper drinking den now. So the dispense games is going well.
Speakeasy is nearly complete.
Yeah, I just need to get a big corner sofa in here now. The motorbike's in the front of the garage, so this is going to turn into an absolute.
Then you'll never leave.
I'll never. Maybe I should get a sofa bed or something like that, and then I generally wouldn't have to leave.
Have that bit of the house. And
it looks like you've already got the pillow.
Yeah.
Andy.
I've got the pillow. Yeah, I've got the hot pillow, so I can go to sleep and have those lovely smells.
They are supposed to aid sleep, aren't they? Hot pillows, so you'll be out like a light with that.
That's right. Yeah. No, I managed. One of the guys in the Glasgow homebrewing sorted me out with some free leaf hops that came from Ride Brewing. So
just a couple of bin bags full.
Just a couple of bin bags of leaf hop. So if anyone's looking for some leaf hops, shoot me up.
Yeah, like I've heard you're a big fan of them. So
yeah, I love them. They work
them really well with your system too, don't they?
Totally.
Yeah, good luck with that, buddy.
I might have to fit a false bottom to my boil kettle.
I think you might.
I think it might be a good idea. So yeah, that could be the next evolution in the brew system.
That's where you're going next.
I'd just like to clear one thing up, because I've been accused of larceny by somebody. Luke, no, the pH meter was not stolen from work. Okay, it wasn't. No, it genuinely wasn't, because all the pH meters that we've got at work are like upstanding ones with separate probes and individual control boxes, and it's not one of them. It's just a really, 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 really good pen one, which was...
Is it a Kegland?
No, it was acquired by somebody else. I've got a Kegland one as well.
So someone stole it on behalf of Chris. So it's okay. Chris didn't actually steal it.
No, somebody got it from a laboratory that was shutting down.
All right, okay,
as in,
cool.
The company had gone bankrupt, and he simply filled his pockets with everything that he could before he left. I don't believe it's theft if the company doesn't exist anymore. Just saying.
Does the liquidators not take that? Does it not the liquidators that own that?
I have no idea. It's mine.
We're going to get into the debate of legalities of bankruptcy.
That's it.
What can I say?
I
It's
think
mine.
we've deviated.
Yeah.
We have.
Is it Tricky next?
It's Tricky. Tell us the state of your home brewing, Tricky.
Well, it all kind of got thrown up in the air by the house move a little bit, so things needed rearranging slightly for all of that. But it's all back on track now. I guess the things that have changed most recently will kind of come on to a lot of the equipment stuff shortly, but it has mainly been kind of a little equipment upgrades or changes for me. Like I've got an insulated mash tun like Andy as well, bigger mash tun that at some point hopefully will enable me to do some properly big beers in that as well, because it's got a decent amount of capacity in there. The hand pull, obviously, like jumping on the hand pull bandwagon. So getting into that sort of faux kind of cask style beers off the cornies or whatever, and probably switching pretty much fully to using all rounders for fermenting as well. So basically sort of binned off the other
Stainless.
fermenters that I've been using. The stainless conical, I sold that. That's gone. I've still got Spiedel. But that's just sat on top of the fridge, not doing anything. So a couple of all-rounders and basically golden, I think, pretty much for all of my brewing needs. I think, probably out of all the stuff that I've changed in recent times, that's the ones that have made the biggest impact on my sort of process and brewing, and probably the quality of the beers as well, to be fair, because I think that whole, not necessarily just being able to do stuff under pressure, but also the kind of transferring and all that kind of stuff being made easier to do that, in a fully closed system, and pressure transfers and whatnot. So that's about it really. Other than that, it's just trying out new hops and things like that, and concocting beers to send off to you guys, and the iTap as well. So I was similar to Chris. I absolutely made up with that little gadget, because especially considering the amount of beer mail that I've done in the last few weeks. If I didn't have that, I would still be bottling it up now, I think, probably. So
it just makes it so much quicker, doesn't it?
Oh, it's rapid. Like, I think you can. I mean, you did a whole keg off of the iTap,
I did
at one point. And how long did that take you to?
About 35 minutes.
That's good.
So definitely a lot better than the other options in terms of speed. So anyway, that's pretty much where I'm at, I think.
I'll one plus the iTap.
Owen?
Oh, did you bite the bullet? I thought you were saving it for the TV. Oh,
Brett.
It's Brett Harmon's raspberry IPA.
Yeah, it's the Nigel Mansell beer, Red 5.
Nice.
I haven't tasted it yet.
Should you really need a moustache in order to drink that?
I think the chain should be playing, I'll be honest. Oh, that is nice.
Tangy.
Ho-ho!
Tangy tangs.
Okay,
it's just me to go, isn't it?
Just sure.
Are you sure that's not a Star Wars reference?
That's it. I'm getting excited.
Nigel Mansell reference.
Who knows?
I don't care. I don't really watch Star Wars, so I'm gonna say it's Nigel Mansell.
See, I was brewing last night, and Chris hung out with me. And Brett Harmon, in fact, joined us later on. He'd been out on the lash most of the day or something, wouldn't he?
No, he's out on lash most of the day today. He'd been in a hot tub warming his bollocks.
I did think he seemed a little sober for having been out on the lash all day. But we were chatting last night, and he was going to some sort of wetting the baby's head thing today
in a Weatherspoons.
At a Weatherspoons with his godson and his mates or something like that.
Good.
He's here. He's here.
Chris has got your beer on.
He was wondering whether he was going to make it. How was I hope your day out was good.
Yeah, see, it was a Star Wars reference.
It was Nigel Mansell.
There you go.
He just said it himself in the chat.
Don't care. He's clearly wrong. I don't care if he made the beer.
It's his beer.
He's wrong.
No,
he's the one who gets to decide what the reference is.
I am beholder. State of my brewing run out. Something new. I started slanting the other night. So thanks, Tricky, and a little bit of help from Chris as well.
Tricky, there's a video on that.
Your video, I followed that diligently. And I actually last night brewed the persistently bitter,
Nice.
and I bought a pack of Timothy Taylor West Yorkshire Yeast 1469, I think it is, and I slanted that. So I made like a whole load of slants. I made about 25 of them. And I actually put some 1469 into about 5 slants, and they seem to be taking off pretty well. So I'm quite excited about building my yeast bank, which is something I've been doing recently. I've also bought a 5-litre conical fairly recently, so I'm upping my yeast game mostly these days because that's just paramount. I think actually homebrew. What else is going on? Quite a bit more double batch brewing. Obviously, with the B80, it's an 80-litre system. So brewing 40 odd litres is a cinch in that system. In fact, I could even go triple batch, maybe even quadruple batch. I don't know if I had enough fermenter space, but I don't. So yeah, just trying to finding that actually I want to brew a larger volume of beers that I know that I like, especially with a hand pull, right? The first time I brewed persistently better, the keg lasted 2 weeks. So I'm thinking, well, yeah, best not make that mistake again.
Yeah.
I don't think that was I don't think that was representative of the quality of the beer by the time. Well, I mean, it was representative when you got to the end, but at the start, I'm pretty sure that must have been as green as hell.
It wasn't terrible. It just wasn't as conditioning complex as it could have been. So the plan is obviously just to leave those 2 kegs to condition for a little while.
I thought you were going to have one so you could drink it straight away, tan that one, and then by the time you finish that, the next one's perfect.
Well, listen, like that is the game plan, right? But I'm probably going to try and leave it at least 2 weeks before I crack it open, the first one.
Yep, good
But
shout.
if it does go in 2 weeks, once I crack it, then at least I know I've got another one that would have been conditioning a whole month, which would be even better, I'd have thought. So I'm still brewing like smaller batches, just a 1 keg kind of thing, but that will be more like the experimental brews, new recipes, stuff I haven't done before. So just trying to sort of up the volume a little bit. Like you guys, go.
Have you ever thought doing it like the experiment thing? Because one of the things I quite enjoy seeing is when you do that kind of one batch, but then you're changing up the hops, or you're changing up the yeast, and then you can then see the difference between the two. I always really like those sort of things because as you know, a home brewer that's always trying to learn stuff, it's always good to see that sort of experiment.
Yeah, like split batches is fun. I've done it a few times before, but I think my challenge is fermentation space. So when I do ferment, I tend to use my Firmzilla 20. What size is the classic Firmzilla? 27 litres. But it's really tall, so I can't fit 2 fermenters into my firm fridge. A bit like you, Andy. You know, you've got your Chronicle in there, right?
Yeah.
So it would be a case of having to add another fridge.
Or you could just get a glycol system and then boom, Bob's your uncle.
Maybe
Spend
when
40 quid getting a fridge off of Free Cycle or eBay or Facebook Marketplace, or drop $1,000 on a glycol system.
No, did we not talk about under counter chillers? So for
400 quid. You could buy a brand spanking new massive fridge like I've got for that.
Chris, can you not get your contact to keep an eye open for one?
I already have. He's on it. I need a bigger fermentation fridge. But yeah, it just comes down to money, I think. And that's something that's going to pop up as we go through this list. I'm really happy that Owen's brewing the double batches because, it's one of them things when you've got a beer that you really, really, really like. And I think we've all got beers that we absolutely love. For me, I've got my Kashmir and Idaho 7 nipple. It's a stunner. My Mango Hefe, it's a stunner. Marzen, Alt Beer, and yes, I'm going to keep saying Marzen. I don't give a shit. All of these beers, I wish I could make double batches of, but my 50-litre kettle will not allow me to do that. And I'm not one of these people who's going to lick a back. So for me, I would love to do it, but I can't. But I think double batches is something that a lot of people. I know Graham Hughes is having to do. I mean, for him, it's not a want; it's a need. Okay,
he's got two young boys.
They're not young though, are they? They're like 18 and 21.
Two sons at home at drinking age.
Yeah, that's gonna end badly. That one.
Yeah, you're gonna get through the beer, aren't you?
You need to up your brewing game definitely to manage those levels.
He's going to be getting a 500-litre mash tun soon, I reckon.
In fairness, at least Graham's got an excuse. I'm not quite sure what my excuse is to be double batching.
Do you think Graham needs some hops? Do you think Graham needs some hops?
Possibly. He may possibly need some. I think that this leads us nicely into the next point of conversation, which is across the homebrew landscape, what are the equipment changes that we've seen? The things that have come out in the last 6 months, a year and a half, these kind of things that we're seeing. And as Owen has put in his notes, and, you know, having done a little bit of research, the array and expansion of homebrewing equipment recently is it's exploding. It's just exploding. We're seeing Brew Tools releasing their F100 fermenter, which, fair enough, costs the same as a kidney.
Yeah.
But it does look to be a very capable piece of equipment. Spike Brewing have released their fermenter. Again, a fantastic piece of equipment. Will cost you the same as a small child, but it just looks phenomenal. And even if we move away from fermenters, which is where a lot of the expansion has occurred because of the, you know, the oxygen-free transfers, the pressurized fermentation, more than 2.5 psi, Andy. Max boost. These are there's been a lot of expansion within the equipment, and we're just going to spend a little while running through those specific things to kind of give you an idea of the things that we've got, which have been within this expansion and array, but also the things that we've seen that we kind of want to get involved with. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So who wants to lead us off on pulling things by hand?
Oh, I think it's Tricky's probably got to cover this one, isn't he?
He does.
Spunks on a couple and clean them.
Jizz paste.
The jizz paste cleaning methods.
Yeah.
Detail, yeah. BJP.
So, I think you've just
vinegar jizz paste.
I mean, this isn't really a new thing in homebrew, right? It's actually an old thing that's become perhaps more popular in the last.
I mean, people have been doing this
few months.
So it was I was probably one of the earlier adapters, I would say. The homebrew Griffo was probably the first that I saw in the early years that kind of came about and started taking it up to the corny keg. I think he started off with the bag and then came on to using the check valve with the corny keg. And then what happened was the craft beer channel, Johnny, then did a video on basically because of lockdown, he couldn't get his cask ale in the house, in the pub. So he wanted to bring in the house, and that's when he did that 5 points best better. And that was me. I was like, that's it, I'm sold, I'm doing this. And I managed to get it on Facebook Marketplace. Someone had theirs and went on the basis of homebrew Griffo's set up. And then I think who was next? Was it Owen? Who was next? Was it Owen or I think yourself and Stewie Prince got the Pint 365 ones.
Yeah.
And
check out my video on that one.
Yeah.
Oh dear God.
So a few of us started getting in. Tricky got it, and then Chris, I believe you're now gearing up for yours.
Well, it's strange you should mention that. I've got one right here.
Lovely.
The only thing that I have at the moment is a logistical issue, which is going to be resolved tomorrow. And then I will be putting up a shelf and setting mine up at some point over the next couple of days, because I'm brewing tomorrow, and I'm brewing version 8 of Persistently Bitter.
Cool.
A slight tweak, a couple of changes that nobody knows about, because let's face it, it's only a secret if nobody else knows about it.
Have you really done 8 versions of that beer, or you will have done 8 versions of that beer?
I think I've brewed that beer 14 or 15 times.
Wow.
But I'm actually on to version 8.
Yeah.
And I've created a divergent version.
He has.
He's fucked off.
It's fucked off.
What's different with your one?
Oh, what's different? No, I probably tweaked the malt bills.
Different yeast.
Yeah. Like you know me too well, Tricky. I actually made it with Mosaic. Fermented it out with Sanders, and it's actually not a bitter anymore.
It's got a kilo of oats in there.
They're persistently Nipah. What can I say? It's the persistently double IPA. No. I mean, I added a little bit of changes to the malt bill, not massive, and then went all Bramling Cross almost, which I think may be one of Chris's previous versions. In
version 4, to be fair.
Version 4. There you go.
I tell you something, version 4 was the one that sent me on a path that I'm currently on. So it's a real game changer as the Bramling Cross. The flavour profile that you get from that, especially with the layered caramel malts, it is stunning. It's a stunner. It really, and I can only imagine it being even better through a hand pull. So yeah, very, very good. I think hand pulls are something that Tricky is going to say his famous line. Do you want to say it, Tricky, or shall I do it for you?
No, you go on.
Yeah, he's got a video about that.
Two videos.
Yeah, okay. He's got videos about that one. So you can check them out at Dudes Brews. Owen's is a Blue Underpants Brewery, and Andy's is a I'm a Wedding Photographer.
Blue Trouser Brewery.
High Road Brewery.
It's just Andrew Lynch, High Road, yeah.
Yeah, High Road Brewery. So, I mean, feel free to check these guys out. They do have some fantastic videos that will cover a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. But hand pulls, yeah, definitely. They're a huge thing. And to be fair, kegging in tandem with the hand pulls, complete game changer. No more having to smash, 25 litres in 3 days before it turns to sherry or vinegar. You can actually drink from your hand pull at a reasonable rate. And one of the things that I will say is Tricky's video does have a nifty little 3-way to give you a cleaning option, which I thought was actually really quite intelligent, which is unusual for Tricky. And it does allow you to clean the pump really. I mean, look at it. He's taking all these little knocks on the chin like a champ. It is a brilliant video, though, to be fair, and I did learn a lot from it. So feel free, check them out. Kegging in tandem with that, and I think the other thing is closed transfers. We definitely need to mention closed transfers in conjunction with kegging to reduce oxygen. Yes, it's going to piss everyone off from camera, but you know what I think about camera. I think we need to move with the times. Nobody likes cardboard marmalade beer. So, The next thing on the list, I'm trying to get through these because as far as I'm aware, we're nearly an hour in and we're on like 0.6 and there's about 40.
A lot of points, yeah.
Unitanks.
Big one.
Go for it.
Big one. I guess we've probably covered this when we talked a bit about the oxygen oxidization, oxygen-free podcast in quite a lot of detail. But I mean, like closed transfers have become a super popular thing. The use of unitanks, trying to avoid oxygen as much as possible. And I wonder if, like, for the large part, this is sort of almost the Nipah effect as well. The hazy beer
100%.
Scene, it's come along and really influenced and in a way affected innovation within home brewing, because clearly people want to brew those styles of beer And that's
Yeah.
precisely the kind of equipment and innovation that you need to be able to
it's-
do that.
It's definitely been driven by that trend towards those style of beers.
I
and
think so.
People basically realizing what we were maybe doing before is not going to cut the mustard when it comes to the quality and longevity of those sort of styles.
Yeah.
When you're using, standard equipment and like siphoning into bottles and, bottle conditioning and things like that. I mean, it can be done with extreme care, but it's not, it's a lot less likely to work out. That's for sure, as you'll see
Yeah.
from the evidence of purple and brown Neepers that you see online when people are trying to do it that way. So
Yeah.
And I think the fact that it's almost like we've innovated as a result of that, and then realised all of the
Benefits.
the benefits, almost like our eyes have been opened and gone, well, actually every style of beer, apart from perhaps like some sort of Flanders red or something that needs
Lambic.
or a lambic that needs some oxygen just to get some acetobacter kind of interaction or whatever. Other than that, every style of beer is going to benefit from a closed transfer, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, this is something that you see. There are people who will still sort of, I don't need to do that. I've been doing it this way forever. All my beers are fine. Blah 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 blah. And it's like, well, yeah, certain styles are not going to necessarily suffer immediately from it, but at the end of the day, oxygen is a mechanism for spoilage in beer. So if you have the ability to exclude it from your process, why the fuck wouldn't you? If you can afford to do that,
especially at the price point as well. It's interesting because, like Chris mentioned, Brutals and Spike Brewing. There's a lot of high-end companies producing stainless steel uni tanks, which are, like, by all accounts, incredibly good quality, and are effectively a miniaturized version of what perhaps you might find in an actual commercial brewery. But then you can also get access to like really cheap all-rounders that you can pick up for a bit more expensive than your classic bucket from Wilco's, but
not by much.
But not by too much. I mean, it's only going to be like 2 or 3 buckets from Wilco's to buy the all-rounder, and it comes with so many other benefits, right, that we've talked about in previous podcasts, so let's not bang on about them. But carbonation, you can serve from it, you can dry hop under pressure, you can ferment under pressure, you can do all sorts of crazy fun stuff with a unitank, right?
Cool.
And more importantly, with the pet ones, with the Firmzilla, the Fermentosaurus.
Yeah.
Is it called the ass plug or something? Whatever, the one with the V at the bottom, or the one that the man himself, Graham Preston, has got. Basically, they all allow you to see the fermentation.
Yes.
And being brutally honest, guys, I'd pay money for that shit anyway because it's fucking awesome.
I love it, mate.
I love the lava lamp.
It's like I checked my beer this morning, which I pitched the yeast about 11 p.m. last night.
Yeah,
and at about 10 o'clock this morning, it was just going nuts. And I checked it maybe 3 hours ago, and it was like a snow globe, like a Krausen, probably about a 6-inch Krausen on the top. Just like absolutely loving it, and it's great just being able to see it. I love that.
That is impressive. But all of these things kind of come into one. The unitanks, the kegging, weirdly enough, the hand pulls, all of them kind of come into one. We've covered ITAPs. ITAPs are a huge innovation, and they also help with oxygen reduction. They also help with the ability to package and things like that. We're not going to continue banging on about ITAPs. You all know how good they are. Andy B's got one on its way. And to be fair, I think everybody but the bearded wonder in the corner from Scotland's got one. And the reason why we've got them is because they're damn good. Tricky because he got his for note. But the next thing that I kind of want to move on to is something which is recently I've noticed far more of them coming out onto the market. And that is insulated mash tuns. Because it used to be that your insulated mash tun was essentially a cool box that you drilled a hole in, shoved the manifold in, filled the lid space with expanding foam, and basically that was your insulated mash tun. But recently, I've seen companies producing these insulated mash tuns made from thermopots. Companies like SS Brewtech, companies like Powell Brewing, and these other companies that they've started producing. I've only just noticed them. They may not be brand new.
Brewbuilder
Do one as well. And these are all amazing products to improve your mash efficiency. Now, if you just built a craft beer pie system, you wouldn't have these issues anyway.
Yeah, well, no, I don't agree with
you
that.
You wouldn't.
No, but it's initial, so there is big advantages to having it.
I can't believe you, of all people, are banging against craft beer pie.
No, it's not that I'm banging against, because it's awesome for controlling the temps. It's just that initial 10 minutes where you're trying to get everything set up and, mash it in and get, it just holds the temperature so much better in those initial 10 minutes or so. So, yeah.
Really, if you're holding your temperature fine for the first 20 minutes, you're pretty much golden.
Yeah, exactly.
But these new insulated mash tuns with the recirculation ports and all these bits and bobs that are going on, they're fantastic, and they're really, really well made. They really are well made. Sparge manifolds kind of links into that nicely. We've seen some.
Me and Owen have went and kind of invested in the Sparge manifold. It's SS Brewtech ones. I think, Owen, the problem was at the time Brutals didn't have one.
No, they didn't really have like the original system, right, does have a Sparge system. It has the Sparge hat.
It's the hat, yeah.
And and it does work. Don't get me wrong, it does work, but I think it works better if you're brewing the right volume intended for the system. And because, so if I was brewing an 80-litre batch, I think the Sparge hat would be fine, because the Sparge volume of water that you're pushing through it would work well. But because I was doing a lot of smaller batches in it, it's the flow rate is so fast to be able to cover the actual grain bed that you'd sparge like 15 litres in like 35 seconds or something. Or maybe not that fast, but probably like 3 or 4 minutes, and it just wasn't really sufficient.
Have you seen a bump in efficiency?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you just get a better flow rate. Brutals have subsequently kind of come out with an alternative solution, which is more of kind of a kind of more. It's got about expensive 6 legs on it, and it sort of sits off the top of the mash pipe, the pipe that comes up, and then it sort of just drips down.
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to bother investing.
No, because you've already got.
Yeah, now I've got the SS Brewtech Sparge manifold, which personally I think works really, really nicely with the system. Quite a lot of people I've seen on the Brutals. In the Brutals community are using them as well. The original system, just like it would tend to channel through the malt quite badly, and generally like you couldn't really sparge smaller batches. So
and there's also the small point that the Brutals design system is yours for the low price of your firstborn, half your kidneys, and a quarter of your liver.
It was a small price to pay.
But it's one of them things. There are a lot of expensive systems out there, but there are also, there are other solutions which aren't going to cost you an arm and a leg. And a lot of companies are pushing forward with that kind of lineage of development. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Now, the last thing on the list, which I want to say, is laser cut bottom filters. Now, Owen bought one and managed to get free shipping off the malt miller. I'm planning on having one made. Yes, and it's probably going to cost me not too far off what Owen's cost him. However, mine will have the Hop Edition logo etched into it.
Oh, nice.
Is
it going to be electro polished though?
Yes.
Good.
It's going to be 304 marine grade stainless with a nice little etching. So the actual filter bed of it will have the Hop Edition logo in it as well.
Amazing.
Who's part of the robbery at the moment?
I was just about to ask that. Where's that?
That's Owen. There you go. It's Owen. They're coming for him.
I'm a smooth criminal. What can I say?
They've turned up because of the quiff. So yeah, that's basically the equipment stuff that we've seen. The one thing that I will drop in that I did want to talk about is there's been a huge expansion in the number of all-in-one systems as well. You've got the Brew Devil, what's the other one? The Grainfather G70,
there's about 30 companies selling the same Chinese fucking
Yeah.
all-in-one system.
Yeah,
Hopcat.
Yeah.
Global Brew.
But this is the thing. These systems, these 70 litre, 60 litre, all-in-one systems are just fantastic for people who want to get into brewing, want to brew big batches, want to throw dead badges in their beer, and want to do it for a reasonable price. I think that.
They're not electronics engineers either, Chris, or software engineers where they can make their own.
Yeah, I know, but we look down at these people, Andy. We do.
I think they're really good. But the key thing that people need to know about these slightly cheaper all-in-one systems is they will only last you maybe 2, 3, 4 years before something inevitably goes wrong with them, depending on how well you care for it, how often you brew on it, or whatever. And once something does go, it's very, very difficult to then fix that thing that goes.
Here's a point.
Serviceable, are they? Generally,
they're not very serviceable.
In 4 years, what's the homebrewing game going to be like?
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
We're all going to have pinter systems, and we're going to be serving it through that weird system that bloke talked about.
Oh, what was it? The Lindemann system.
The Lindy systems. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Yeah, I mean, I'm all over that. Not. So that's equipment. We've covered equipment. We're going to move on now, and we're going to talk about malts. I want to pass this one over to Andy.
Yeah,
because apparently his dad's been making malt. That's what it looks like from the notes.
What? Where does it say that? Pops.
Your pop's been making malt.
You see?
I see it.
Come on, fucking hell, you're so slow.
So there's in Fife. There's a maltster. It looks like it's a husband-wife team that have started selling malt. They've got their own malting. Which is a crafty maltsters, and so they do a lager malt, a pale malt, and a distiller's malt, and they're also doing some heritage stuff as well at the moment. I think is it beer? It's called beer malt or something. That they're putting through. So there'll be more coming, I think, at than what they've got advertised at the moment. But the prices are actually really, really good delivered. So I think it's £20 odd if you collect, and then about £32 or so delivered for a bag of malt, 25 kilo bag of malt. And the other thing with is the efficiency you get. The extract of sugars from it is actually quite high. I know a lot of commercial breweries in Glasgow that have been using it, and they've actually had to scale down the amount of malt they use because of the extract they've been getting out of it. I've found it's been very, very good as well. It's a nice kind of clean, sweet. It's almost like kind of halfway between pale and golden promise is probably the best way to describe it. It's got that nice sweetness, and it just, if you throw hops at it, it just lets the hops sing, sort of thing. So it's a cracking malt. Yeah,
that's a good thing. More maltsters being on the case will invariably help us as homebrewers, because obviously the greater the supply, the cheaper it's going to be. But also, if you're telling me that there's going to be an increase in efficiency from it, a lot of people are going to jump on that because, they like to save the 28 pence it's going to save them into their pocket.
Especially it's interesting that you seem to get a bit of an efficiency boost with these smaller maltings generally. Warminster I found, which are a bit
Oh,
smaller
mate.
than the big boys
Warminster
in terms
floor
of the malt game.
malted
Their
Maris Otter.
malt is always like 5 to 10% better extraction efficiency for me than anything else, and it seems like for whatever reason the smaller maltings you tend to get maybe that better yield.
And that's fantastic. That's what you want. You want these companies to turn up, to push the game forward, because with innovation comes advancement, and that's brilliant. That's what we want.
And the thing with the crafty, sorry, Chris, the thing with the crafty maltsters is they grow it, so they are farmers themselves, so they grow what malt they want to do. So I think we'll see a lot more exciting stuff in the future as well, as they start to trial new and different malts and bring something different to the game.
I wonder if we're going to end up with the same situation where the soil that the malt is grown in is going to alter the flavor in the same way as the hops. That's really interesting for me.
Yeah.
That's a really good thing. Is their Vienna malt going to be better than Weyermann's? You never know, do you? You never know.
It'll be cheaper, that's for sure.
Well, damn straight. 58 quid a sack for that stuff at the minute.
Makes me cry.
Brexit means Brexit.
Yeah. Fucking gammons. Anyway, so the second part of malts is it now appears that there are multiple maltsters doing floor malting and selling their malts specifically as floor malted malts. Warminster do a floor malted Maris Otter, which is absolutely spectacular. I've got 25 keys of that. Obviously, Weyermann's do it, but I have heard rumours. I'm not going to name the name of the company because I don't know whether or not it's true. My research has led me down a dead end. But I have heard rumours that a large maltster in this country, in England, is soon to be producing a lot more floor malted stuff across multiple different malts. Specifically, I think they said Munich, Maris Otter, Lager malt, and Pilsner malt. Now, whether that comes to occur or not, it may well have been pushed back because of the whole pandemic thing. But I have heard rumours that there is a maltster, a large maltster, which is going to start producing floor malted stuff as well. May not be true, but that's what I've heard. I'm not going to say the name. I'll tell the guys off air, but I'm not going to say the name in case it's wrong. I don't want to get slandered or libelled or whatever the thing is. But that is the rumour on the grapevine that I've heard.
That's cool.
Am I right in saying that floor malting has always been the traditional way of malting?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting that it produces a notable difference of quality, and that we at some stage the maltsters must be looking at the way that they now malt or follow the process that doesn't involve floor malting, and to close the gap, like to create the exact conditions that malt goes through in the more traditional environment.
Is it because we've moved from producing the best extract efficiency on our malts, and now because of the whole craft movement, it's about actually the flavour? It's not about how many kilos of this malt can you get out of the fields and all that sort of thing. It's all about the flavour now.
I think if it is becoming more about quality, then I'd be really surprised if they don't throw a lot of research and development into understanding how to do it both more cost effectively and achieve the same level of quality.
You're seeing on that note, you're seeing the bigger maltings bringing back like heritage varieties, which
absolutely
have become obsolete because of like you say, the yield and stuff. They've sort of moved to different varieties that will be better yielding or more efficient or whatever, and now it's kind of come full circle and they're going back to the heritage varieties on the basis of flavor as opposed to just pure economics, because it's a
it's not about that anymore.
Artisan sort of product for artisan beers, isn't it? I guess so. People are wanting the best possible, like you say, flavor and quality, as opposed to just the one that's going to be the most efficient in the brew house, I suppose. So
Yeah.
it seems like that's definitely having an impact on the big maltings. And what Chris was talking about would obviously be a sign of that as well as this sort of predominance of the smaller places kind of popping up, and much more kind of family sort of scale maltings kind of becoming an option as well. So
Exactly.
it's interesting.
It's certainly interesting to see where it goes in the next few years.
The one thing that that is sort of it really pushed me towards the malts a little bit. I got one piece of news on a website that I read that said there was some type of malted barley which had been essentially not produced in the UK from a specific strain of barley. And it hadn't been produced for something like 50 years. And then this random malt, I can't even remember what it was. I was reading about it the other day.
Is this not Crisp? This is Malt Miller put up a post about
I think that's the one that
it was Crisp, and they
Was it
brought
Crisp?
back. Yeah,
It
and
was
they brought back
something-
this heritage
It
malt.
was like 60 years or something. It's
Uh-huh.
not been produced. And like, boom, next thing you know, you've got 25 kilo sacks of this stuff floating around.
Yeah.
That is just brilliant, if you ask me. That is an ideal way. The big breweries are never going to touch that kind of stuff. It is not cost effective for them. They're going to lose so much of their bottom line. They're not going to touch it. But the small breweries, the micros, the nanos, the people like us who are sitting here, and we're doing a podcast about fucking malts that have been malted on the floor. We're interested in that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
We're willing to pay. I pay 58 quid for a sack of Vehement's floor malted Bohemian Pilsner, for God's sake. We're interested in this stuff. I'm buying a bag of Golden Promise as soon as my floor malted Maris Otter from Warminster's done. This is the kind of thing that we're going to geek out about. We're going to be interested in. We're going to buy to try, because 25 kilos is 5 batches.
Yeah.
And if it's not right, we blend it with something else. Okay. These people, they have to understand, and they do understand, bringing back this malt that hasn't been seen for God knows how many years is a good thing, because we will buy it. We are stupid people who spend $3,000 on B80s.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be me. Thanks, Chris. So I think homebrewers, in my opinion,
talking about Stewie, but you know.
Well, yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same boat. The homebrewers fall into 2 camps in my mind, right? There are the homebrewers that brew beer to be able to it be financially cheaper than buying beer at the supermarket, right? And then you have homebrewers, which I'd probably put most of all of us, and probably everyone that's listening to this podcast, into, which is the pursuit of perfection and quality. Like, we want to experiment and we want to push ourselves to produce the very best beer we can produce.
Because it's a hobby.
So actually, just extending on your point there, Chris, is I think all of us, if we add up how much money we've spent on home brewing compared to the amount of beer that we actually have produced, I reckon we're probably paying more money for that beer than we would do if we'd just gone and bought, like, I don't know, Beck's at the supermarket, you know?
Yeah. But for my wheeling and dealing, mate, I'd be paying about 8 quid a pint.
Yeah, well, exactly, right. So, I dare say, like, I'm probably at like 10 quid a pint or something at the moment. I reckon I'm going to have to brew for another 20 years to level out. I
calculated mine was £2.20 a pint.
No, that's not terrible, right? That's not terrible. Yeah. But
cheaper than Wetherspoons.
The thing is, there's always something else to buy that just sets you back.
Exactly.
Again, like,
resets
one step
it.
Forward, 2 steps back on the whole, saving money thing.
But the key point is, like, we do it because we love it. It's a hobby. It's an interest. It's a massively immersive hobby, in my opinion. That we do it for the love of making beer, not to see how cheap we can make beer, right?
Oh, I got it. Yeah.
What has he got? He's got a bouncer.
Mike Daddy.
The Bouncer McDaddy.
Spunking the cash.
Unnecessary purchase, just cold crash.
Yeah, but you have
You
no idea how
fat
much
joke.
hop material went into my last batch. It's not about the money. This is what Brewcat Brewery Richard Brooks is saying. Okay, it's not about the money. We're doing this because we love it. All right. If we were racing motor cars, now I've got a mate who races motor cars, and believe it or not, he races Citroen C1s. His Citroen C1 that he raced last year cost him 40 grand. He could have bought 8 Citroen C1s for 40 grand, and it was one car. He also does sim racing, so he has a sim seat with the wheel and all the other bits and bobs, and he plays on computer games. His sim set him back 8 grand. All right,
This is cheaper. Plus,
home
we get
brewing is
drunk at
not
the
an
same time.
expensive hobby, and more importantly, at the end of the day, we get a product that we can enjoy.
And then
Okay,
piss out.
the vast majority of hobbies, you pay money to do it. You don't necessarily get anything at the end. This is the thing about home brewing. That's the way I explained it to the wife, and I'm fucking well sticking with it.
That is true, actually. Yeah, that is very true. Most hobbies are just an experience, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're just a pastime.
It is definitely
Interesting. Anyway, let's move on.
Let's move on because we have hops to cover. We have hops. And what new hops have we played with, guys? Well, Tricky's quite clearly been playing with his Nectaron.
The Nectaron was good, yeah.
The Nectaron was fantastic, and I'm hoping that I'm going to get... Oh, Santi's in the chat. I'm really, really hoping that I'm going to get half a kilo of Nectaron sent over pretty quickly. I've been playing with Enigma. I had a bit of an issue with my batch of Enigma Pilsner, which I made, in that apparently L17 Harvest doesn't like 43 degrees.
Uh-oh.
The thermometer on the Inkbird had dropped out of the door, so the 2-foot greenhouse heater that I have was basically on full chat until I noticed that the beer was at a ridiculously high temperature. So yeah, we're gonna see how that one turns out. So yeah. The Enigma hops I've been playing with, the smell was fantastic. I have to say, the aroma coming off of the fermenter was absolutely mind-blowing. And unlike Tricky, I put a man's amount into my beer. It was 300 grams.
That Nectaron was 10 quid a packet, man. I couldn't fucking
Couldn't justify it.
It was like Sabro in the early days.
Yeah, man.
Sabro was like that.
I paid 10 quid for 100 grams of Sabro.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I didn't pay anything for the Enigma. I won it on a Timmy raffle.
Yeah, nice.
So I don't mind throwing it into a beer, but we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, so Enigma is a new one to me. Tricky's obviously been playing with his Nectaron. And then we've got a whole list of other ones that we've got. So we've got Talus. I've never used Talus. Has anybody used Talus?
No, I've got
Not
some
yet.
though.
Yeah,
Timmy raffle.
Grams. I think we've all got Timmy raffle prizes for Talus that is yet to be used. But,
so there's obviously Talus. I've no idea the flavor profile of it.
Well, in the commercial beers that I've had that have used it, they've all been great. So I'm
really nice. So kind of not dissimilar to Sabro, just without the coconut and probably a little bit fruitier.
It's not meant to be quite herbal as well.
Yeah, it's definitely but Sabro is as well. So yeah, it has a herbal element to it, but a really interesting hop in my opinion.
Cool, we'll go with that. Then we've got other ones. Sabro, obviously we've all used Sabro pretty much.
Yeah.
Coconut.
That's been going on a few.
Tricky, you've got Sovereign, haven't you?
No, but I have got a couple of the other UK ones. Is Sovereign actually a new one though?
I don't know. I've never heard of it before.
Who put that on the list?
That'd be Owen, who's just walked out the door.
Yeah.
Right.
Ass crack showing as well. Brilliant timing. No, I've not used it. It does sound interesting though. I did a little bit of research on it before the pod started.
No, Sovereign's not particularly new, I don't think.
It sounded really interesting though. I've not used it. Sounds like
I've never used it before. No, but I think it's been around for a while. But anyway, One. If you know, it's still new to us, isn't it? If you haven't brewed with it, so
Yeah,
Harlequin.
that's true.
Have you used Harlequin, Andy?
No.
Have you got any?
No.
Who's got some? Somebody in the
I've
group's got some.
Yeah.
You've got some. Okay.
I don't want to be giving too much away in terms of what like the next hop tester beer is.
This next 6 months of
it'll be there at some point. You'll just
Now,
have to wait and see.
One that really twanged my bean is Mystic. I did a little bit of research into Mystic, and it sounds really interesting. If it is as pungent as people say it is, that really could be a game changer for the English hop kind of fruit
I'm just
bomb.
so hoping that one of those new English hops finally lives up to the
the
marketing spiel.
I'm with
I've talked about this before, but it's just so frustrating when you get your Olacanas and things like that, and it's like tropical fucking atom bomb English hop, it's gonna blow your face off with mango and fucking pineapple and passion fruit and all this shit, and then you taste it, it's just like mildly fruity hedgerow English hop. Just what the fuck is this? This is not like the new mosaic coming out.
It's like a big Challenger dry hop.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's where we're at though.
There's a couple that have that I think probably most of us are familiar with that have been better. I think like Jester is probably one of the ones that
fucking underrated.
Is more delivers
it's
more. I still don't think it really like gives you the sort of new world flavors. But then my other thing on this is like, why are we trying to sort of force like English hops into that category?
Yeah, exactly.
Thing. Come up with some interesting new like English hop flavors as opposed to trying to just.
Well, we've all got beer engines now.
English Citra or whatever. So
can I just bob in here for a second, Trick? Because Jester, I had a beer off of a beer engine at a pub local to me when we found out that Becky was pregnant with Abigail, so 2.5 years ago, and it was a bitter hopped entirely with Jester, and it was fucking fantastic. So for all you guys with your beer engines and your .365s and your Angrams and all your fucking bits and bobs, grab yourself some Jester, make yourself a nice bitter recipe, and throw a shitload of Jester in it, because that was bloody lovely. That's it. That's all Chris. That's all I've got. Trick is there. What the fuck are you talking about, Millington? What are you on about?
No, I was just like because it riles me so much. I was just going on to the the British Hop Association description for Olacana. Characteristics: mango, grapefruit, and passion fruit. Fuck off! It does not taste of these things.
Well,
maybe if you put a ton into a 23-litre batch.
I'd imagine, how much does home brewing add up to in terms of hop demands versus commercial breweries? Probably pretty small. But equally, commercial breweries, particularly in the UK, have favoured sourcing US hops, right? And in a lot of them, right? In many ways, like I would imagine the UK hop farming has probably suffered over the last 5 or 10 years.
Big time,
yeah. So it's almost a case of like, well, if we don't get out there as homebrewers, even though we are a small contribution to it, if we don't get out there and support UK hops, then there's a risk that we're just going to end up losing what are arguably probably some really great hops. Well, they're just not going to be your Citras and your Mosaics, you know.
But we've got Fuggles and EKGA, that sort of thing. They are banging, absolutely banging for your beer engines. Like, unbelievably good.
Yeah, apparently they're in big demand in America.
I'm sure they are.
You know, they want the traditional English pints. They want the traditional English handpulls.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we've got hops that really suit those traditional British styles very, very well, then they're going to be in demand, you know, for the same reason that
it's going to be used on a massive scale by, the sort of traditional, UK breweries and stuff as well. I don't think there's any imminent danger of most of those varieties sort of disappearing. I mean, probably some of the more obscure ones are around the periphery, then maybe, because they're not, if they're not widely used by the bigger breweries and they're not really appealing to craft brewers and whatnot, then maybe they will fall by the wayside. And I guess that's where the things like the new varieties that are trying to chase this kind of fruity tropical flavor are coming in for, to try and sort of meet that gap. But yeah, hopefully they'll nail that at some point. And
there's got to be one, hasn't there? I mean, come on, there's got to be a breakthrough. Do you know what would piss me off, though? This would really fucking piss me off. Is if one of the New Zealand hop producers came over to the UK and took a rhizome for Olicana and Jester back over to New Zealand and ended up producing the world's greatest, fruitiest hop just because of the fucking soil. I'd be well pissed. I mean, to be fair, come over and do it. Because, they're producing a decent flavour from UK soil, which is like saying, a child bred purely eating only Cheerios can grow up to win an Olympic medal. If he was fed a proper fucking diet, imagine what he could do. He'd take over the goddamn world.
Oh, dear.
But that's the kind of thing. And to be fair, I'm really, really, really hoping, very much like Tricky is, that one of these hops is going to just turn out to be the next big thing. And it's going to be a huge boon for the British hop industry. And they're going to be able to, move forward with some development and hopefully produce even more hops to keep us strange, weird people in a hobby.
Cool.
Hope so.
Yeah.
I want to see some of these hop producers pushing some of the other flavors that are more unique to the English hops. I think maybe that's one of the areas that they're sort of where they're struggling a little bit with this, maybe, because it's like, well, if it's never been sort of easy to produce those kind of tropical fruit flavors from, but why can't we sort of get an English hop that maxes out on the kind of berry flavors or the floral notes and things like that, and just become
Bramling Cross is close.
Well, that's what I'm thinking of, like if you had like a really like souped up version of Bramling Cross or something, you imagine all the different applications you could have for that in like darker beers and
God, it'd be port to heaven.
I wonder if anyone's ever like, have you ever had like a English hop Nipah or like a Bramling Cross Nipah? Do you reckon anyone's eever tried? Someone must have, right? Tried to make a Nipah.
Where's Mad Mick when you need him?
I'm sure there was a Chapel Down, like there's a brewery called like Chapel Down or something like that. I'm sure they did like a American style IPA with shitloads of Bramling Cross in it, and it was actually really good. And it was like totally unique because it was all like, dark sort of berry, forest, black forest fruit sort of, flavors going on in there and stuff like that. And and that's kind of, I guess, the sort of thing that I'm talking about. Like, why can't we be sort of like carving our own path rather than just trying to emulate the
and it may be that we just haven't we just haven't like pushed the boundaries of using those hops. We almost just pigeonhole it. We just go, English hops, they only belong in golden ales and
the amounts,
stouts and bitters and whatever, and traditionally that's the hopping rate that we should do, rather than someone going.
Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy a kilo of Bramling Cross, and I'm going to do an IPL hopped with Bramling Cross.
Do it.
I'm going to put a 250 gram dry hop of Bramling Cross into an IPL, and we're going to see what happens.
Yes.
Fuck it. I'm going to buy it now.
You owe it to the homebrewing community, Chris, to do this experiment.
This is what I was surprised at, was see the 5 points best bitter. It was like a crazy amount of Fuggles. Fuggles is normally like, you put 30 grams total in the beer sort of thing.
Yeah.
This, I'm sure, had over 150 grams of Fuggles in it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, wow, that is insane. But it was bringing like this orange tangerine flavors as well as that creamy earthiness. It was just freaking phenomenal. Like, one of my favourite beers that I've done on the engine was that, and it was like a huge amount of Fuggles.
I mean, could you do the same thing with like EKG? Because I mean, that's reasonably fruity, isn't it?
Yep.
But I dare say that there probably are quite a few English hops that you could actually just really push the boundaries with and actually discover that they are equally, well, maybe not equally, but still very, very fruity.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that you've got to use more than 40 grams in a beer.
Yep. Or it's just been that's the way it was commercially viable for mass producing these types of ales.
It's £17.70 for a kilo of Bramling Cross.
How cheap's that, by the way?
You might as well then.
I'm just going to do it.
Of the whole kilo.
Order
Add
two.
to cart. Add to cart.
Who's that with?
Get
a Brewed. That is so cheap.
Yeah, that's got to be the bulk kilo packs from Get
Brewed. It's only 4.5% alpha. I'm going to have to order 2. You know.
Yeah. What high alpha acid hops do you find in the UK?
Challenger.
That's kind of medium, isn't it? I think it's not.
Yeah, but for the UK,
yeah, Target is quite high.
Galena.
I thought Galena was Australian.
What's that one?
Or is that American?
Has anybody used Callista?
No,
but I've got a packet of it. Could be coming in a beer to you soon at some point.
To be fair, 14.5 alpha, 42.85 a kilo. That ain't bad.
Admiral hops. Have you ever used that?
Yes, I've used Admiral and I'm never using it again.
Really, alpha acid at 13 to 16%.
It's like literal harsh bitterness. Admiral.
Harlequin's 9.5 to 12. Target up to 13.
Let me just minimize that because I don't want to be sitting here going through the various hops on Get Brewed. They haven't paid us any money or given us anything to give away. So we've talked about the hops. There's various other ones. There's Motueka, there's Riwaka, there's Brew 1, there's Idaho 7, Cashmere. There's all of these new hops. Pretty much most people have tried most of them. There's some absolute bangers out there, okay? And hops seem to be moving with crossbreeds of various high alpha and seeing where they end up. Like there's a sister of Galaxy that's out on the market at the moment, which I think is Enigma. There's a Vic Secret, which is out on the market, there's a sister of Vic Secret, which is just fantastic. You know, they're literally taking what is huge and trying to make it bigger. It's almost like they live in fucking Texas. So these kinds of hops, they're always going to be around. Don't be afraid to try these new hops because some of these hops truly are outstanding. I mean, I would never have given that one that Tricky sent us. I would probably have never given that one a second look until somebody had gone, oh, I've just made a Nectaron Pilsner and it was fucking fantastic. And I'd have gone, cool, give me a kilo. But now that Tricky sent me that beer and I've tried it, I'm like, dude, this is fucking epic. I need some of this hop. And that's all it comes down to. Share your beers with other people within your brewing group, or for God's sake, send us your beers. We'll review them on the show. You know, we just want to see people pushing back the foreskin of brewing and exposing the bell end of progress. That's what we want.
Well said.
Beautiful analogy there.
Just watch out for the cheese.
Yeah, clear the cheese away. So I think right now, given we're all sitting here with empty glasses, is a really good time to go and commercialize.
Commercial break, bad boy.
Shall we commercial break it right here, right now?
Commercial break.
Why not? Fuck it.
Yeah, let's do it. Right. Okay. So, what have you guys? Oh, Tricky's got to go and get his. Look at this first.
I've got mine right here.
The 7 P's. The 7 P's of success is very weak in Tricky.
Right. I'm going to go first. So I'm drinking a collab beer from Unity Brewery here in Southampton. I'm sure many of you have heard me talk about this in the podcast before, but this is a collab with Track, Another brewery I'm sure you're familiar with. We're a track base. They look up north, aren't they? Anyone know?
No,
I've no idea. Never heard of them.
You've never heard of track? I'm going to look it up. Someone look it up whilst I'm talking.
Just watch. You'll end up buying a case.
Yeah, well, no, I've learned from the error of my ways of starting to like buy stuff during the podcast.
They're in Manchester.
Manchester. Well, they're a great brewery.
No. Yeah, they are. Sheffield Street in Manchester.
And this is called Look Around You. It's a IPA at 6.4% ABV.
Oh.
And I will read the label whilst pouring. Look at that. That's multi-sculling, right? Because the writing's sideways. Brewed in collaboration with our Manchester buddy. It was right there on the can. What a twat. Manchester Buddies track. It produces or pushes the soft and fluffiness up a level. Loads of flaked grains meets a big dry hop of Amarillo, Cashmere, and El Dorado.
Oh, this is going to be beautiful.
Well, it's certainly hoppy. Lovely head on there. Yeah, lots of tropicality. I'll be expecting some pineapple. I'm getting a bit of pineapple.
What year were you born, Owen? 84?
84.
Owen, inventing words since 1984. We have tropicality as a new word.
You've used tropicality before, you fucking charlatan.
They were a great band.
Probably not as good. Probably not as good as I'd kind of hoped. Actually,
Oh, can you guess which brewery mine's from?
Yes.
The only cans that show up in the camera shots.
I actually think that might be
can.
slightly oxidized.
Oh,
Is it a bit marmaladey?
Yeah, it's certainly not as punchy as you'd probably expect. Unless there's maybe just a little bit of crystal malt in there, but I'd be really surprised by the description.
Don't mind me. I'm just going to go and ban Stewie Prince from the YouTube chat.
Oh.
What is this that you're drinking, by the way? I've missed the intro.
It was a Unity track collab.
Okay.
IPA 6.4%. Amarillo, Cashmere, El Dorado. Yeah, not really a massive amount to report back on that, other than
Not digging it.
it's a bit meh.
Yeah.
Not really that juicy. I think it's slightly oxidized, which is a shame, because actually I've had a lot of good beers from Unity and I've had a lot of good beers from Track. So I might have just got unlucky.
That's two pretty solid breweries there.
Yeah, two very solid breweries. Yeah, I'm probably not going to drink that. That was probably my worst commercial break to date.
Damn.
I'm good for you, Owen.
Yeah, I'm pretty upset about that. But don't feel too bad for me, because I've got Luke Stevens' raspberry Philly sour in here, so I can always crack into that.
Okay, well,
I've got that one in reserve as well myself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Given the fact that to my camera angle and the fact that my can's showing up in my camera angle, can you guess what brewery it's from?
Arbor.
Don't know. Oh, it's Arbor. Oh, unbelievable.
So we've gone with Space. Well, it was either this or a 10% honeycomb imperial stout.
Oh,
and I'm not being funny. I've had like so little sleep. If I had that, you guys would be finishing it with me, and I'd be snoring in the chair. So I went with Arbor Space Hardware because I've been saving this one specifically. I had the Devil Made Me brew it yesterday, and as Owen will testify, I was not impressed. I didn't think it was that great. And to be fair,
the really hoppy stout.
Yeah, dry hop stout.
Yeah,
I
do not get on with.
No.
Like, excessively hopped stouts at all. Like, it's like an American style stout, isn't it? It's just a bit,
Yeah, an American
bit
stout.
aggressive.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, let's just leave that there. So, is it a NEPA? Yes. Does it have a lot of body? Yes. Is it a really hoppy, slap you around the face with hops beer? Yes. It is a 6.6%, 3.7 UK unit NEPA, and it is brewed with Equinox, Galaxy, Mosaic, and Cat Piss. Now, I have to say, the colour on this is spectacular, and the flavour is really rather good, even though it has the two hops that normally don't work for me. It's a really nice beer. The nose is just tropical fruit. I mean, it is just straight up tropical fruit. I'm getting peach. I'm getting pineapple. I'm getting orange. I'm getting, weirdly enough, pear. I'm getting a little bit of lime. This is a really, really nice beer, and I'm going to savor it because, as I said, I've had very little sleep, and this will probably make me fall asleep. But look at that, guys. You've not got a frigging cat in hell's chance of looking through that. That is opaque.
Juice.
It's orange.
Nice. It's nice.
Looks good.
The body on it's insane. It's really full-bodied, which you don't really want on a 6%er. You know what I mean? That's going to make it quite difficult to drink. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Who's next?
I'll go. I've been enjoying mine. I have got a dipper, which I would call an Owen.
Hey. You feeling all right, Andy?
I know.
Oh, that is such a good one.
So it's a Verdant. Yeah.
Oh man,
unconventional
beers this year.
tactics. And it's all, is it all Nelson?
All Nelson Dipper.
That one's been
all
reviewed.
Nelson Dipper.
Owen reviewed that one.
I did review that one.
Oh,
That was the one with the famous artist who did the artwork on the can, and we all went off to look, and she's quite fit.
yeah.
I think I've reviewed almost every one of Verdant's dippers, haven't I? At some point during the podcast.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's good. That is good. It's got that peppery sort of New Zealand thing with the Nelson. That's that kind of it's like the kind of bordering on a lime peppery, and then it's got, but it's just the color of it is just so light and just super pale, isn't it?
It looks like you're drinking condensed milk.
Yeah, with that light behind.
Yeah.
I thought like big gooseberry, getting a big gooseberry thing, a big almost like grapey thing going on.
Grape, yeah. There's a grape with the Nelson, but there is a kind of citrus, like there is a kind of slight citrus, or not orange, but as like a kind of orange juice sort of citrus bite that comes through, and then you've got that peppery, classic sort of New Zealand that comes through in Motueka. And then Chicky's beer tonight was just in there in the back sort of thing. It's got that, but this is just so pungent. It's like it just slaps you in the face with that.
What I really liked about that,
especially when it's fresh.
The Nelson on its own is not actually like a particular favourite of mine. I'm sometimes find it a little bit too kind of dry and tart and grapey, but like that beer just sort of brought out like a whole different set of flavours to me from that hop that I'd never really experienced with Nelson on its own.
I wonder if it's the yeast as well, the Verdant yeast.
Yeah, definitely sort of must play some sort of role in it, I think. But yeah,
and the water chemistry in it is just so pillowy smooth. Sort of, the body of it, and it doesn't taste like an 8% beer either. It's got bags of body, but it's not like screaming alcohol at you. It's just in
my opinion, it's like Verdant Day Cloudwater. I like up there in terms of creating like some of the best dippers. They're just they're so smooth, so juicy.
I don't know if Tricky was actually on the podcast when we were talking about this when you reviewed it, Owen. But the one thing that I did mention was Nelson on the hot side is completely different to Nelson on the cold side. So a dry hop with Nelson gives you such different flavors to a Whirlpool with Nelson. It's a it's a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde hop. It's almost two completely separate hops depending on what the temperature that you put it in at are. And it's a fantastically wonderful hop. And it blends really well with a lot of the other Kiwi hops. And it sounds to me like what you're getting there, Andy, is a gel of the two different sides of Nelson.
It's got that kind of nice sort of, puckering, sort of makes your mouth pucker a wee bit, and like it makes you want to go back for more. It's not super duper soft. It does have that. Yeah.
How fresh is it, Andy? When was it canned? Should be on the bottom.
So canned. All right. Okay. So the 26th of January.
All right. Okay.
Wow,
So that's actually pretty old.
It's super. It is. It's. I wouldn't say it's. It's not. It is definitely super juicy. Like loads of aroma. Like the thing just screams. It's very.
I think that says a lot about Verdant's quality as well, in terms of like that you can drink a Nipa that is 4 or 5 months old and it's still come out not oxidized, super juicy.
It's
that's not an easy fucking thing to do, right?
There's a lot of breweries that if they were doing something similar to that, it would probably be undrinkable by now, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely undrinkable.
If I did something like that, it'd be undrinkable by now.
It wouldn't have the same like punch in it that does.
Yeah.
No way.
But personally, I think one of my favorite Verdant double IPAs is One More PSI, which is their all mosaic. And I remember having that probably 3 or 4 days after it had been canned, and it was insane how good that beer was. That was possibly one of the best beers I've ever drunk.
The Citra one as well was amazing. What was that?
Is that the fruit boxcar or something?
Yeah, I can't remember the name because it's another one of those obscure Verdant ones. But
yeah, I think for me, the Mosaic one beats the Citra one. Personally, I think I preferred that, but I really like a single hop double IPA, kind of Nipa double IPA. I think it's a great way to drink a beer because you just get a real showcase. All of those
beers actually like brought something out of those hops that I'd never really sort of got before, like the Mosaic, the Citra, and the Nelson one. They all kind of delivered sort of flavors. I was like, oh wow, that's not what I was expecting just for a single hop, sort of flavor profile on this beer or whatever, which is probably one of the, why those beers were so good as well, because it just sort of surprised you a bit as well.
I always find that my beers actually, the conditioning time, so that Need for Citra, the single hop Citra one I did, I found was incredible, like how complex it got near the end. And that's maybe 6, 7, 8 weeks or whatever after it was brewed. So, at the start off, you're like, oh yeah, classic Citra. But then as time went on, it got better, I thought.
Well, I think like for breweries, like most breweries put a lot of their product into can now. But you don't know how long necessarily they've kept it in a tank before they've gone, know what, I now want to put that in can. Mm-hmm. And then they must also be thinking about, well, it's going to sit in can for a little while. And in some cases, I think actually beers, especially really big hoppy beers, benefit from just a few weeks just left in the can. Yeah, I think Pulp was it Pulp? Verdant. What's the Pulp. It was Pulp, wasn't it? Like it was a real hype beer, and that was just it was too much. If you drank it, it was too green. There was too much. There was too much hop in it to drink it straight up as soon as it arrived. You had to leave it for a little while to calm down.
I mean, I've done beers, and it's like you get hop burn off the back, and you have to leave it. You have to leave it for between 2 to 4 weeks, and then the beer just total transforms into this absolute juice monster. You know.
Yeah. The hard part is if you don't buy more than one can, you're just clueless, aren't you? Like you don't know. Like you just crack it open and hope for the best. I just sort of hope that it's really good. But
Yeah,
there you go. So
Can we get Tricky's? Because I'm anxious to know what Tricky's got.
Better crack on. Well, I kind of boxed myself into a little bit of a corner with my commercial beer tonight because I sort of didn't really have many commercial beers in the fridge, and I had to go to the
Tesco,
the sort of dark
Lidl,
dark beer storage area.
Is it a 4-year-old bottle of pedigree?
No, where some of the stronger beers are located for sort of long-term storage. And
oh dear,
yeah,
he's got an
basically
MP.
pulling out the shipping forecast, which is a Verdant and Pahala Baltic Porter.
Nice.
That's like 12%, 11,
Coming in at
12%.
10.2%.
10.2.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
I've seen that in the bottle shop.
We've just been talking about loads. Pahala are they Polish? I think they're Polish, maybe. They're definitely somewhere in that sort of.
I think aren't they Estonian?
Is it Estonian? I don't know.
Or am I thinking of a different brewery?
Owen's about to find out. But
how do you pronounce it? How do you spell it? Sorry.
Pahala, but sorry, it's Pohjala. But anyway, I know that they make fantastic dark beers usually. Now, when I poured this out, the head's kind of disappeared completely now, but the head on it was like a slightly intimidating kind of inky black head on the top of the beer as well. And it's
it is Estonian.
Estonian, right? Okay.
Oh, cool.
Smells kind of licorice, a little bit chocolate. Not quite as boozy as I was expecting for a 10% beer. There's a bit of booze on the flavour there.
It needs more time.
Tricky. The only thing that anybody wants to know about your beer reviews is
Is there a lot going
on? There's a lot going on with this one.
There we go.
There is.
Let's move on now.
It could probably do with a little bit more time, to be honest. It's a little bit.
That's quite new. That
raw tasting, yeah. Yeah, I mean the thing is with beers like this, obviously in the cans they've not been sat and left to age for that long, so it's quite intense. But there is some really nice kind of, rich kind of chocolatey coffee type flavors in it. It's a little bit more dry than like what you would get with an impy stout. So, it's not as sweet. Certainly not as rich in terms of like the flavor and stuff. But like a really, really kind of intense kind of chocolatey coffee, licorice type flavor off of it. I think it's going to take me a little bit of a while to work my way through that one, to be honest. But that's probably just as well with it being 10.2%.
It's not. Anyway, it's not a dipper. It's a sipper.
It's not. Yeah, it's not a dipper. Anyway, so I'll keep mine short and sweet so we can move on because there's a bit more to go yet.
We've still got some things to talk about. So let's say we're going to move on to a topical subject of how COVID has affected home brewing and brewing.
Yeast?
We didn't talk about yeast. We'll get back to yeast. Should we talk about COVID? Should we talk about yeast?
Let's talk about COVID first. Let's do the COVID effect.
I feel like I really built that up.
I'll be honest with you. For me, honestly, I think the COVID effect is far more interesting than the yeast effect.
Yeah, I think so.
I would agree.
So the first thing that we've discovered quite a lot of with COVID is dead badgers. No, I'm joking. Go on, Owen. I had to jump in for humour value there.
Well, it's obviously like we have all adjusted the way that we live our lives, or we certainly have been forced to the last, let's say 14 months, 15 months or so, right? And I think we've gone through like different stages of that. But one of the things I'm sure we all noticed was homebrew supply stores just having to totally pivot the way that they provide their services to us. So the malt miller literally taking like daily orders at a specific time, then having to close the store online. Some homebrew stores just like this, they was just continuing to take sales, knowing full well that they wouldn't be able to fulfill those sales for like weeks.
Are we naming shame or not?
Oh, I don't know. Like, well, why not?
Brew UK, you've done a fucking terrible job.
Yeah, some of them are just like really irresponsible, and like you can't blame them. They had a tough job, but they made some poor decisions.
I think that's what it comes down to: poor business decisions based upon
of course
a changing landscape.
Exactly, like they just continued on and didn't adapt. But and we also saw people for some reason think that it was kind of the end of days and they must order 100 kilos of
Hops.
Marisota.
There was some brewing
for some
reason
reason
going on there, wasn't there? People
it was like, oh my god, I think
their
all of the homebrew suppliers are going to close.
Brew all the way through.
God
These
knows.
are the people who are still going to be using the bog rolls that they bought in March last year in 2027, though, aren't they? Let's face it.
Maybe.
Yeah, they've got 4 tons of flour and a kilo of bread yeast as well sat there.
Or it was all of us homebrewers going, oh my god, the next few months is going to be savage. I'm going to need to up my intake of homebrewing simply because I'm going to need alcohol to get through this savage few months. So
when in doubt, get battered.
It's when everyone realised that they were going to be homeschooling, that they're like, the beer intake's going to go through the fucking roof.
So right, breakfast, double IPA. Right, kids.
Yeah. Let's start off on a double IPA. Ended off on the Impy Stouts and the barley wines. It was a crazy time. Let's face it was a crazy time. Nobody knew which way it was going to go. Me and Tricky did a podcast, episode 4.5, where we talked about it. And we basically said, look, make some beer and give it to your nearest and dearest, okay? Let's just bring a smile to people's faces. And for me, the homebrewing community, whether they heard our words or not, they embraced the fact that they were the purveyors of fine alcohol. And we were preventing people from drinking Carlsberg. And people rose to that challenge. And I got a lot of beer off of people. I mean, even Alan, my mate round the corner, who has only ever in his entire fucking life given me 4 bottles of beer. And I've known him for 9 years, right? He even brought me a 4-pack round. And to be fair, it doubled the amount I'd ever had off of him. But if Alan's going to deliver me beers, and I know Alan listens to the podcast, he's a tight Yorkshire. I'm a philanthropist at the side of Alan, all right? I'm pretty sure he's still wearing the same socks he got for Christmas in 1983. This people embraced it, but they needed the supplies, all right? And that's the point that I'm trying to make. The malt miller, Get a Brewed, the homebrew company in Ireland, to a certain extent, Cross Maloof, all of a sudden, these companies were hit with orders like they had never seen before. I'm pretty sure Tom at Cross Maloof died twice. Just trying to deliver the number of packages that he had to deliver to the post office.
He's still got emails out to everyone though. So.
Yeah, he did. I mean, fair play to him. He must have been sending them on his iPhone as he was riding his push bike to the post office. It was one of those situations whereby there had to be changes made to the function of the business in order to keep the supply going. And I mean, Luke Stevens has just said it in chat. Massive respect to the malt miller. All right. Rob stepped up I happened to phone up I think it was early April. And essentially I just said, look, I said, you guys are doing a fantastic job, but when am I likely to see my order? And he said 48 hours. We're working on 48 hours. Now, I can deal with 48 hours. It's not quite Amazon Prime now, but I can deal with 48 hours. You can plan for 48 hours.
Yeah, there was very good communication.
It was
Very
brilliant.
good.
And COVID kicked the shit out of everybody, all right? Across the country, it kicked the shit out of everybody. But we got to the point where we were getting our grain, we were getting our malt, we were getting our hops, we were getting our kit. They still had fucking cargo containers arriving from China with shit in it. And from America, from SS Brewtech, they still had containers arriving on the back of trucks. They did their best, they soldiered on, and they put through it. And I know Martin Rake listens to this podcast. Martin, I love you, man. You've done awesome shit. Okay? Now, that kind of covers the malt miller. But there are many other things that the COVID effect has taken a massive hold on. And I think we need to talk about a few of these things while Owen frantically clicks and highlights text. Okay? Home bars. How many people know somebody who'd never previously had one who during COVID has built a home bar?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Quite a few friends.
Have you seen the number of like channels on YouTube as well, which have sprung up for people building or, you know, doing whatever, groups on Facebook as well? There's loads of them.
Or just even, just Philip's Perfect Draft Systems and, you know, reviewing all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The Perfect Draft thing is like, apparently when they released, when Perfect Draft released rumors that they were going to do tenants, it basically just broke the internet.
Totally did.
Scotland went nuts.
Tenants.
But Perfect Draft is massive because there's a lot of people, right? They don't want the faff of homebrewing. They're not interested in science or art or whatever. They just like beer and they want to be able to like pull a pint in their own home.
Yeah,
Perfect Draft System's great.
The sort of smallest end of the scale, isn't it? Where you just want one of those on the counter in the kitchen so you can get a draft beer, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it goes all the way through to people who've like literally built a pub in the garden.
Yeah.
You know.
To be fair,
sitting there with the beer engine.
Yeah.
To be fair, I know people who've drilled holes in walls to be able to put taps in the kitchen. And I know somebody who's built literally an entire, I want to say bar, but it's really a fucking restaurant bar in their back garden. They've bought Kamados. They've bought, you know, various outdoor. They've built pizza ovens. They've got wooden frames. They've got tables for this shit. They've got chiller units underneath the table. They've got hand pulls and taps and all sorts of shit and fridges in weird places. And these people have really embraced the fact that I'm going to be off work for 4 months. I need a project.
I'm going to get fucked.
And that's well, no, that was the thing. One guy who I know, right, his name's Clive, and weirdly enough, he's one of the site staff where I work at the moment. He literally built an outdoor kitchen, an outdoor bar, plumbed it, and did everything, and finished it 2 days before he went back to work. It's like, you've just spent 6 months working on this shit, mate, and you've had 2 days to get battered. That's not the best thing to do, is it? I mean, that's a poor planning. But he did it, and he's now got this wonderful outdoor space. And with the weather we've had today, I absolutely guarantee you he was making pizza while getting absolutely arsed.
Probably.
And that's what it is.
Why wouldn't you?
Are we all just going to sit
no, like
and say nothing?
No, it's excellent.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, there's loads of people that have done it, and it's probably good because actually, I think a lot of people that have built home bars have probably then gone, well, how do I supply the beer for this? Oh, well, actually, it's quite expensive to go and buy a whole load of beer for it. Maybe I'll start making my own beer, and then they start getting like an interest in home brewing. And it's fair to say the actual uptick in interest in home brewing is massively increased. I mean, it was on the rise anyway, simply by the craft beer movement over the last 10 or 15 years in the UK. But this just sort of really dialed it up another, 20%. And
I think across the board, really, it's like you can see it just in the amount of posts on the Facebook groups and stuff like that. The amount of obviously business going through the home brew shops and everything. The
Wilco's
home
kit
bars
beers.
and everything. Yeah, all that stuff getting cleared off the shelves, like literally.
Yeah.
The place is getting completely like cleared out of stock for stuff like that. But even for like the small, like local kind of brewing clubs and stuff like that. Bedford Home Brewing Group that is on my t-shirt right now.
Big pimping up in
we
NYC.
had our first like meeting back after lockdown last month, and we had was basically oversubscribed for the meeting. Couldn't have enough people. Couldn't have enough spaces for all the people that wanted to come to it. So we had like 16 people turn up. Now, like Bedford's not
cool.
a huge place to have that many people turning up for sort of a fairly niche kind of hobby group like that is really impressive. And I've, just like personally, I've noticed a massive increase in sort of interest in it, and certainly the amount of people wanting to come along to the meetings. And obviously a lot of them being sort of new faces who weren't there pre-lockdown. Which added into the fact that everyone's just desperate to get out and do stuff anyway as well when these opportunities come along. It's it's made a big difference. And I think homebrewing related groups and events and all that kind of stuff, competitions, everything, are going to see a lot more demand in future as well because of that.
I think it's definitely a good thing, but it has meant that things which were normally quite cheap to buy pre-lockdown have become quite expensive during and slightly post-lockdown. In the chiller units that people have sitting underneath that kind of chill cask beers and whatnot and take kegs and make it cold before it gets to your taps, they've gone from being like 50 quid a unit to being near enough 250 quid a unit. Now, I realise that puppies are much more expensive, but holy shit, those things have become expensive. They really have. And they used to be 10 a penny, and now they're really, really not. They're very, very rare. So these chiller units, it ties into the home bar. People want cold beer. They don't want warm beer. These are the people who are buying a keg of, Stella, and they want it cold like they get it from a pub. And the only way to do it really is with a chiller unit or some other kind of MacGyvered way like we do. It's crazy, and then you've got things like the Perfect Draft, which we've already touched upon. These things are selling really well because they do produce a decent pint.
Yep.
And then there's the Pinter, which is a bag of fucking shit, and we're not going to talk about it anymore. And then
is it that bad?
I can't see how that shit can work.
Has anyone actually tried a beer off of one of them?
Is it not
I haven't personally. I don't think it's going to be great.
It's in situ extract bollocks. Fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Right, the problem with it is we all know like beer kits have their problems, right? And this is like
You're
beer
so
kit
diplomatic
in a enclosed system which according to the instructions will deliver you the beer in like 7 days or something.
Yeah, pretty quick.
Like so you're literally like serving it all out of the fermenting vessel.
Does it not take? Is there not like a capsule thing at the bottom and that holds all the yeast? So all the yeast goes in and then you disconnect that, so it takes the trouble away.
Theoretically, yeah.
Fucking bollocks.
It's kind of a cleverly thought out system, but it's not going to deliver you like top quality beer. But equally, if it's a starter for a lot of people into the world of home brewing, then it's not a terrible thing. But
if they're dropping 400 quid on a pinter, they're going to be less inclined to drop.
Whoa! It's not 400 quid, is it?
They're expensive.
No way.
It's not that much, surely.
I don't think a pinter was that much.
I thought they were about 400.
No.
Andy's on it.
I'm away.
Well, it's got like an app and everything, isn't it?
Luke just mentioned in the chat that they did actually review it on the craft beer channel, and I think they were kind of like, the guy who does Johnny, the guy who does the actual like homebrewing side of things, pretty much sort of picked the beer out that was made on that straight away because it was like a diacetyl bomb, and horrible. Whereas the other guys were sort of using it was sort of like, oh yeah, it's okay, it was like good fun, blah blah blah, and they were kind of, they were kind of trying to be fairly diplomatic about it as well when they were reviewing it, but it was pretty clear in terms of the actual end product that it was like all the problems that you would normally potentially get with extract kits and more, because it's just so rushed and basically just beer that's not actually ready as well.
Right, it's 85 quid
for the pinter.
For the pinter and
for the whole hardware system.
And
85 quid.
And 2 extracts.
Fuck off. Fuck off. So yeah. Let's just leave that one alone. We'll leave that one alone because it's a poor man's version of a fucking Grainfather.
Was it a Mr. Beer? Was it the original?
Bollocks. Well, there was that Pico system, wasn't there? There was the one, I heard Denny Con talking about it. There was a Pico where you basically added the grain and it did every fucking thing else for you.
Yeah.
And
my mate brews on one.
That'd be quality.
Yeah, they're effectively they're like semi-automated all grain systems that are fully integrated. But they produce like really small volume, so it might be like 1 gallon.
I did that with the 1 gallon. It was the Brooklyn Beer Shop or whatever it was called, and you basically got a demijohn, and then they gave you grains, hops, and yeast, and then told in some bits and bobs like racking canes and that, and then they were like, right, this is what you need to do, pots and pans and shit like that, and you made beer. You know what I mean?
I started on 5 litre batches, mate, and to be fair, the 5 litre batches that you produce in a fucking demijohn, which is all skunked up to fuck, are still better than that shit.
Agreed. Anyway, let's stop talking about fucking pinters because no one wants to hear about that.
So there's definitely been an uptick in the interest of homebrewing, okay?
Yeah.
And, we really appreciate that the COVID effect has been real. And it has affected certain companies, but other companies have come out of it looking like absolute saints. They really have. I'm fairly sure that the amount of business that the malt mill is doing now compared to what it was in January 2019 or 2020 or whatever year we were in when this bullshit started. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's the 538th of March 2020 right now. It's one of them things. Like, there's always going to be people who take advantage of really difficult situations, and fair play to those companies that have. And for those companies that haven't, you know who you are. Fucking sort yourselves out. So let's do yeast, because then we've only got 2 more things to cover, and we can probably knock this out in under 3 hours.
Yes. Let's do it. Yeast we've been using then, and or experimenting with.
Okay, I'm guessing every single one of you guys has used the Verdant yeast.
Oh, yes.
Yes, we did.
I've never touched it.
I used it for the comp when it was being given out by Malt Miller.
I've used it fairly recently on a low ABV, hazy, hoppy polo. Really, really good. Very, very nice.
Yeah, that's a nice yeast, isn't it?
I haven't gone back to it since I think I did a couple of beers, like the competition one, then another one maybe. I haven't gone back to it since, but I've got some in the fridge. I will be using it at some point. I kind of just sort of returned back to London Ale Free, which is actually the original source of the Verdant yeast anyway. But
but just without the stupid stall at the end.
Well, I didn't. You don't always get a stall with it. I didn't get a stall with the palo I made. But equally, I would quite like to make a English style with it. Like a bitter or something.
Well, the London Ale Free yeast, which is now, a lot of people associate it with NEPAs and stuff, is obviously an English ale yeast. Yeah. Traditionally, I think the rumor is that it's actually the Boddington strain, which is like, you couldn't.
I've heard that same rumor.
that sort of original beer, you couldn't really get much further away from a NEPA, could you? So,
Or from London.
That's the other that's the other thing. America, are you listening? Yeah, Manchester, a bit further that way.
I'll tell you what to do, America. You go to Manchester and tell them that they're a Cockney. See what happens to your face.
Was it the Americans that named it London Ale 3?
Shit kicked out of you and then fucking driven over.
Yeah. Well, that's the Yeast label for it, isn't it? So, but anyway, the point is, that's what it was originally used for, and it's fantastic for bitters and. I've used it in stouts and ales and all sorts of things. Great use. So the verdant yeast must have the potential to do that job well too, I would imagine.
I've got some people in my home brew club that have used verdant in a bitter and stuff and said it's really good. And actually drops pretty clear as well. Flocks well.
Cool.
Fair play. Just to drag things back a little bit, Santi basically said that the malt miller's turnover for the last year is probably likely to be higher than Google's.
Shut up.
And I don't think he's fucking far wrong. I mean, obviously they're not turning over billions, but
zeros out there.
Yeah, calm down.
Calm down. They are going to be turning over some serious wedge. Right. There's also
the
WHC
thing is like an indicator of new yeast strains coming out. There's also new yeast companies. So WHC are one of the ones that's kind of come to prominence. I think when I first became aware of them, they were selling yeast in like little trial jars, and it seemed like a little bit amateur, to be honest. Like as far as
was that the little plastic?
Like a little
stuff.
piss pot type.
Exactly. And that they've now sort of very quickly moved on to having very professional looking packaging and a really nice range of different yeasts. They also sell the dried versions as well of some of the yeasts that were not previously available from other manufacturers in dried form. So your Sanders is the Mont strain, which is now in dried form, which is
and Andy's still got 400 grams of that shit to use.
I've got a brick. I got a brick. Do you know what? It's brilliant. I'm really enjoying it just now. The NEPA I did with it recent was excellent. I think when I first tried it, I was like, what have I done? I bought half a kilo of this stuff, and I'm not even that entirely sure, but it's Conan, I believe. So, and as I've used it more, and you put higher ABV on that thing just sings. It's pretty damn awesome, and it takes a little bit to drop the flake. Like you can sometimes get that slight rubbery thing, but that then it's initial. It's once it flocks out, then it just disappears. But it's just a flavour of the yeast.
I think that WHC, for me, have done something that not a lot of other yeast labs have done, except for maybe Imperial, but they've done it better than Imperial, is they've actually given you a cell count, which is useful. And I don't think it's costing them any more. I think that...
I was going to say it's like 200 billion packets.
250 billion.
250 billion, yeah.
WHC's 250, Imperial's 200. And then
is this in the wet?
And then you've got companies like, is it Fermenter Mobile that's still shipping 50 bill? I mean, I can't pitch 50 bill unless it's Quake, in which case I'd pitch that into probably a 15-barrel batch. You can't really do that. You've got to then build a starter. That's an extra layer of shit I've got to go through before I can pitch it into my beer. Yeah. Whereas WHC, oh my God, they are... I mean, 250 bill is bitching. I mean, that's a good pitch. That is a good pitch. And that, for me, is a sign of a company that understands the market that they're selling to. Okay? Because let's face it, if you're selling a packet, you're selling it to home brewers. Home brewers are lazy, and we don't want to fucking build starters because it's a pain in the ass, and the wife moans at us when there's sugar all over the cooker. WHC, brilliant company. Absolutely love them. Carry on, Tricky. Sorry.
I've got a niggle with WHC. They sell a lot of Quakes, don't they?
Yes.
They've got a lot of different strains Quake. What they haven't done is adapted their packaging to reflect the right pitching rate.
This is true. This is true. I'll give you that, Owen.
And it irritates me because it insinuates that you should just pitch the whole pack or make a starter. But in reality, it's like they should say add 5 mils of this package to 23 litres of beer.
Maybe those particular packs of Quake are designed for breweries.
Yeah,
No,
maybe.
they just use the standard pack and they don't bother changing the labelling on it. But
I do agree with what Owen's saying.
I mean, to be fair, there's far worse examples of that with like much longer established yeast companies like Y Yeast and White Labs, who use exactly the same kind of generic packaging for all their yeasts, whether it be ale yeast, lager yeast, whatever, and also make no mention of the fact that you do actually need to make a starter with most of their yeast pretty much all the time because they have a lower cell count anyway.
Irregardless.
And and sort of suggest that you can direct pitch like lager yeast, which are massively under pitching anyway before you even like factor in the age of the packet and the amount of yeast that's maybe died since it was actually manufactured and got to you in the UK as well. So I think that's probably a problem across a lot of manufacturers, apart from the ones who do just give you a decent quantity to begin with, where it becomes sort of irrelevant anyway. But
no, I agree with that completely.
Where are WHC based? Are they
Newcastle?
Newcastle. So
Ireland.
I thought they were Ireland.
No, it's Newcastle.
No, Ireland. Newcastle and Ireland.
Fight. It is Ireland.
Yeah.
It's Newcastle, County Wicklow, Ireland. So you're both right.
No, but it was. That's what was my point. Was it's Newcastle in Ireland, not Newcastle in England?
I was right.
Yeah.
No, you were like, Newcastle.
And
but the rest is like, when you can order yeast that clearly doesn't have to travel as far compared to ordering like Imperial or Omega or
From
White
Portland.
Labs or Yeast Bay or whatever. You're always going to get an advantage in A, availability, B, in it being fresher, C, and it probably being like, which is a subsector of being fresher, it was probably transported in a more reliable way, perhaps.
I just think that there's a lot of yeast companies out there that are actually putting a lot of effort into it, and to move away from WHC argument with me being right. The number of companies that are now producing dried quake. Fair enough, it's an isolate, but we can deal with that. They're producing dried quake, and that for me is a fantastic thing for a lot of people. There's a lot of people who want to use quake. They don't have the ability to do starters. They don't really know what to do with wet yeast. And so they've got these dry packs that they can just rip the top, pitch it, job done. I think that's a good thing.
That's one thing we can definitely say about something that's changed sort of even over the fairly recent course of this podcast being in existence is the amount of different dried yeasts that are available. There's certainly been a fair few of those that have turned up, new or different varieties, and
it's almost like they listen to us, isn't it, Trick?
I doubt that very much, but
I doubt that, but it's almost like.
But like that's like you say, that's a great thing, and it's nice to see that it's not just the traditional yeast varieties that they are branching out into quakes and not necessarily a dry yeast thing, but like sour yeast pitches and all that kind of stuff, like the Philly sour stuff and whatnot. Just more options and more different things to play with, whether or not you are able to use the sort of liquid yeast and you're willing or capable of doing starters and all the rest of it as well.
Absolutely. So, given the fact that the yeast actually make the beer and we make the wort, then it is a good idea to have a decent array, and people seem to have grasped that and gone with it, which is a good thing. So I think that's yeast done. We've done the COVID effect. So let's move on to styles, because we can cover this one off really, really quickly. If you are a UK brewery of a reasonable size, and you aren't producing an imperial or pastry stout, essentially, you're missing out, because that seems to be selling like hotcakes. The cinnamon toffee, Cinnabon, fucking vanilla ice cream croissant stout is a thing, and people seem to be drinking that stuff because they are very nice.
Yeah.
You know, that
I
seems
don't
to
know.
be the latest big thing.
I think they're hit and miss for me. I think when you get a good one, they're awesome, but
Yeah.
you can get a lot that are just way too sweet. That, well, I mean, and don't get me wrong, that's very much dependent on your palate. But for me, I don't particularly like an overly sweet beer, and some of them are just like cloyingly sweet, which I think is actually the point of a pastry stout, isn't it?
Sweet Temptation, the
Just super
chocolate
sweet.
one, it is
Yeah.
super sweet, but it works in that beer.
Yeah, I personally think that they're a bit hit and miss, and I think they're hype train right now. They, as you said, Chris, they're super popular. They're proper hype train. Every brewery's got to be producing one.
Yeah.
And I think there's some good ones and there's a lot of bad ones.
What have you seen recently on the styles front, Andy?
Sours.
There is a lot more of them.
A lot more sours these days, for sure.
I think there's a lot more home brewers doing sours as well. That's it. Like,
Yeah.
again, coming back to the availability of, like, yeast and sort of the easier methods of doing sour beers. That
Yeah, it's a lot easier now. Yeah, you're right,
enabling
Tricky.
people to do that, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah.
I don't know what you mean.
Philly. Love it. Love it. Yeah.
No idea what you're on about, Tricky.
Amazing that, like, people who were listening to this podcast at the beginning and hearing you curse sours to the
Baby puke.
dark corners of hell.
I do believe my words in
waving
episode.
a Philly sour pack.
Yeah.
I do believe my words in episode 1 were "fuck sours" and anybody who drinks them, weren't they?
Something along
Pretty
those
much,
lines.
There
Yeah.
we go. There's a big change in the state of brewing.
Exactly. You know, we all adapt, we all overcome, and I like to believe that, especially when it comes to brewing and it comes to my personal brewing, I am an adaptive person. I'm a scientist. Nothing's ever off limits except for, certain things sexually. But the brewing side of things, I'm more than happy to try anything, and trying that sour, that Thornbridge sour, really opened my eyes to what a sour could bring to the party. And then people have sent me sours, mostly weirdly raspberry sours, which appears to be the thing. But there's always, every day's a school day, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Every day's a school day. And to be fair, there are a lot of sours. And for some reason, Owen, you know when you typed up the notes and you put sours, pastry/dessert sours?
Yeah, that's a new thing. So we were just talking about pastry stouts. Pastry sours have become a thing now.
Cool.
And actually, like, that's kind of a nice balance, because often a lot of sours are quite dry, and they're very tart, they're very dry. Whereas the pastry sour is like sweet and sour at the same time, so it actually achieves maybe a slightly better balance. Yeah, but I've had quite a few from Brew York. Brew York seems to be banging to producing pastry sours.
They've got it dialed.
And they're nice. They are good. I quite enjoy them.
Oh, what's the Vault City we've got in Scotland? Does a lot of good sours, good kind of thick. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a sort of thing that I'm into, but everyone that I know that does like sours just raves about Vault City and what they're putting out. So
yeah, I've heard they're good. I've had one or two of their beers. They were good.
Yeah.
And what about Chris's favourite star? Second favourite star?
the nipple.
The nipple. Yet to emerge.
Mate, it's like
in a large way.
It's like Sovereign, Owen. It'll be there in the end.
I'm sure. I
That's
look
all I'm
forward to it.
saying.
I think we have started to see breweries put out
We have.
IPLs.
There's a good few breweries who are now putting out IPLs and hopping them quite heavily as well. I mean, not as heavy as me, because let's face it, I'm a trendsetter.
We
But-
had a little discussion about this the other day.
Well,
and,
come on.
And I did
IPLs
name the
are not
breweries, didn't
really
I?
Just
a
brewing
new
ales, mate.
thing, are they?
Give
No,
it.
no, I'm not. It wasn't the fact that there's not many places doing it, which there are places doing that, but the IPLs or India Hells lagers or whatever that some breweries have called them have been around for some time. They've just maybe not got that sort
It's
of
never went
traction.
mainstream. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But it
kept this
should.
I kept this from you guys the other day when we did the notes, but I actually got the idea for an Imperial Pale Lager from the London Craft Beer Festival before you guys actually arrived, because clearly I was further ahead in the queue than you guys were. I went in and I found a brewery and I sat down. I can't remember the name of the brewery. It was in one of the little rooms, and they actually had a really well hopped Nipah style lager on their taps, and that's kind of where I got the idea from. So I'm not going to claim that I wasn't the originator, but I certainly took it and made it my own. I'm pretty sure they're not putting half a kilo into their brews,
No, probably not.
So yeah, I did steal the idea, but it wasn't a steal as much as an adaptation.
But just sort of like backtracking a little bit from that in terms of sort of like again coming back to kind of like home brewing developments and stuff. I guess the whole sort of just like brewing lagers generally at home seems to be a lot more accessible now with the like we mentioned all the equipment and stuff, like your cheaper sort of pressure fermenting options and stuff like that, and also the
temperature control,
the availability of different types of yeast and stuff. So if you want to go down the pseudo route and ferment stuff like warm or even hotter, you can do that. I wouldn't personally, or you can do the proper lagers using yeast like 3470, which you can ferment warm anyway, which seems that a lot of people just sort of ignore that fact that you can just use an actual lager yeast and ferment it at ale temperatures, or put it under pressure, in which case it comes out totally clean as a whistle anyway. So
yeah.
But anyway, the point is, I think there's a lot more people doing lagers, whereas in the past they were maybe scared off of them a little bit because there's always been this thing like, oh, lagers are really difficult to do, temperature control, blah blah blah. Got to have massive starters and everything like that. And nowadays it seems like people can, with the right setup and equipment, which is more available and more cheaply available, you can do it relatively easily, dare I say it, and with pretty good results. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, particularly in the summer months with Uber.
Absolutely. I think it's one of those situations whereby everything that we've talked about, all the little changes, all the incremental sort of advancements, all of these things are going to line up at some point for somebody somewhere, and they're going to come up with something which is going to be maybe not groundbreaking, but certainly a divergence from the norm. And this is going to be where an advancement is made within brewing that people can apply to their brewing. Okay, so they're standing on the shoulders of everybody else. They're going to make an advancement, and that's going to push everybody else to make an advancement within their home brewing. It's very much like science, okay? Because scientists always stand on the shoulders of those before them. And when you stand on the shoulders of giants, you can reach for the stars. And I think that's what's going to happen with home brewing as we go forward. We are
for the stars.
Oh dear God, he went with S Club 7.
Couldn't help it.
I mean,
that was a really cheesy comment, Chris.
You could have gone David Bowie Starman, and you went with S Club 7.
I went more literally. You said reach for the stars. So
it's one of them things. It's like, we will push forward and we will advance, and all of these things are brilliant. But at the end of the day, you're only as good as those people who've come before you, unless you're a true visionary. So let's leave the styles thing alone. Let's hit the last section before we can, begin doing whatever it is that we're doing. So what is next? What is on the horizon for home brewing?
Cryo
Hops, Lupo Max hops, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't really understand the process.
No, I was watching. I've been seeing that Overtone have been hitting the cryo hard with all their latest NEPAs. So where they weren't doing much, Dan was and the rest of the crew were posting that basically now that they've started getting these big, vats of cryo to put into the beers, and it given that real boost in flavour, where they kind of chasing after that as much flavour packed into the beer as possible. Cryo's allowing them to take it to the next level, and I think as home brewers, it's something we should probably keep an eye on, because the products are now starting to come. Like I was saying, of Malt Miller has started putting out to us that we can now buy cryo or Lupo Max, that sort of thing, where we can actually put as much flavour into our beer as well. Because a 5-gallon vessel isn't that big when you start chucking in 250, 300 grams of dry hops. We do lose a lot of volume from that.
You do.
Now, but cryo could be the answer.
That, you're looking at, personally, I would generally be doing a sort of 23-litre batch just to make sure that I can get most of a keg.
So you can get an 18 litres or something, yeah.
So you're talking about a fairly hefty, percentage loss in terms of like just raw volume there. It's pretty significant. So there's a lot of other products as well which are coming up, which have been out already for a while, and they don't seem to have sort of quite, become, massively like taken up by the homebrew community. Certainly not a lot of the people that I know of anyway, which can help with these sort of things. So it's like the cryo hops and everything we've already mentioned, but you've also got things like the incognito stuff, like the liquid sort of hop extracts and things like that. So there's a lot of interesting stuff which I don't think many people have really sort of explored yet, and there's a lot of potential there for making. It's not necessarily just about the efficiency, it's also about, I think you talked about this before, Andy, in terms of like there's going to be flavor impacts there as well, because you're obviously
the sherbet,
improving the efficiency by taking out for cryo hops, taking out all that vegetal material, but you're going to have an impact on the flavor profile as well by doing that, because
sure,
you're just changing the constitution of the hop pellets themselves as well.
I think for me, like using cryo, the biggest benefit would be taking that vegetative matter out in terms of flavor. I think sometimes if you end up leaving a dry hop in a little bit too long, or if you're dry hopping at a slightly warmer temperature or whatever, cryo is just going to give you like all the bang for buck. It's going to give you everything that you want, without the downsides.
Margin for error with that sort of hop as well, because I don't know about you, but I found that like there's quite a fine margin between that, like in terms of time or temperature and stuff, between getting that like vegetal note off of hops when you're doing a really big dry hop. It doesn't take much for you to end up in that sort of flavor area that you don't want to be, really.
Yeah.
Like you say, if you take that vegetal matter out, hopefully I would imagine that makes that less of a concern.
Yeah, I think my understanding was like cryo was really only available to commercial breweries for a little while because they had a really hard time repackaging it.
Yeah,
because it was a lot more volatile. It's a lot more volatile than your classic T90s and stuff.
Was that the manufacturers who sort of stipulated they didn't?
I think so. It to be broken down, they didn't want it broken down. They didn't want it repackaged. They were concerned about like degrading their product. reputational damage. So, it's good to see that they're kind of moving away from that now. Clearly, Lupamax maybe has sort of pushed them that way, but
I guess we'll find out.
I'm sure we will. So is home brewing, in your opinion, going to get cheaper or more expensive, do you think?
Sorry,
I don't think it ever gets cheaper.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's only going to get more expensive, but I think that's external factors rather than the manufacturers and the suppliers. I think Brexit's going to really affect us in this country specifically. I think we're looking at paying a premium for imported malts, imported hops, and imported yeast. But I think that's just a given. And like Tricky said, I really hope that one of the UK hop producers can hit the golden bullet, and we can take it from there. But yeah, I mean, we've done shows about how you can save money during your home brewing, and specifically with your yeast, with your water, with your various bits and bobs. We've done stuff like that, but I think the reality is it is going to cost us maybe possibly 3 pence more a pint. I know.
So it's going to be £8 and 3 pence.
Well, but then the price of the pints in the pub's £7.
Exactly.
Do you reckon the price of granulated sugar is going to go up?
I think the cost of dead badgers is going to go down, and that will offset the cost of granulated
There's a lot
sugar.
of competition for that roadkill at the moment.
Because my 8% Geordie lager recipe is going to take a real pummeling.
I think if you dry hop it with squirrels instead of badgers, you'd be all right.
The Imperial Geordie is going to become a very premium product. Isn't it?
Is that maybe the Tennant Super Lager? That's what it is.
Yeah, that's
I've got a really good recipe, a clone recipe for Tennant Super. I'll let you have it if you want.
No, you're all right.
That was the Imperial Pilsner I made for the family. I called it Trampagne.
Andy's eyes just lit up then. In fairness, like when we were talking about what's next on the horizon, we talked about one earlier, the Bramling Cross Nipah.
Oh God,
it's coming. It's coming. It's going to happen.
And maybe we are just going to all have to, if it does start to get more expensive, we're going to have to get a bit more thrifty, right? Or maybe we are going to have to start making our super hoppy beers with UK grown hops.
I can see Chris's Fuggles nipple coming out soon. That's going to be
500 grams.
I'm all about the fuggly nipples.
I like Fuggles.
I mean, there is one huge advancement that's going to come on the UK homebrewing scene soon, and that is that our friend Stewie Prince may actually turn his fucking B80 on. I mean, he's only had it for 18 months. And
he's whittling down those kit beers.
Yeah, he's talking. It may be November when he turns it on.
Do you think we could do it live on Zoom or something like that?
I think it needs to be streamed live.
I think we need a hop edition special.
Playing the harps and stuff.
Make it happen, mate. We need to do this live together.
This needs to be streamed live. We'll all have a beer ready to go for the day when you turn it on, and I will piss my pants if it don't work.
I'm so excited.
I'll video myself pissing my pants. That's how confident I am. But
if he flips the switch and it just trips the whole garage out and the lights going fucking black.
But let's see. I told you,
Jeebus.
That'd be fucking brilliant. But yeah, there is another advancement. Not just Stewie. We may eventually get Craft Beer Pie 4.
Oh, come on! That'd be good.
I think.
I went and bought an SD card for it and everything, and then it just went dead.
Weirdly enough, I had a conversation with I want to say Alex Volkanovski, but he's the flyweight UFC champion. I can't remember his surname. There's a Russian fella. There's a Russian fella. Yeah. So he was talking about recipe integration, and I offered him a Brewfather account because I have two, weirdly enough, for some stupid reason. I offered him a Brewfather account, and he said, "Just hold back, give me a little bit of time. I need a few weeks." So it may be that we can have Brewfather import directly into Craft Beer Pie, which would be fucking awesome for those of you who are intelligent enough to be using it.
Yeah.
So, other than that, I think we've ticked every box, dotted every I, and crossed every T.
Well done, lads. Well done.
You do. And to be fair, Tricky, I just want to say thank you because I didn't actually say this at the start of the podcast, and I apologise. Thank you for doing that beer and sending it out to us.
Yeah,
that
it was
was
excellent.
Oh, it was lovely.
fucking amazing, that mate.
I actually
No problem.
really enjoyed that.
It was
That
very good.
That was a good hop to start off with. So
Nectar
hopefully some
on
of the other
the
ones
shit.
will
That
live
was
up to
good.
that.
It put my
Yeah.
commercial beer to shame.
Yeah.
It's a shame that you don't seem to be able to buy it anywhere currently. It's like we just like promoted this new hop and nobody's got it in stock. So
Everybody
you're
send
such a-
Martin Rake an email and just demand that they get more.
well, there must be when's the next or the current sort of harvest of New Zealand hops going to be coming in? It must be
pretty much
like June
already
now,
been
isn't
done.
it?
No, it should have already
Yeah.
been done because they're into. If we're in spring, they're in autumn.
Yeah. So, but are there 2021 hops in? No, sorry, it would be 2020, wouldn't it?
You're putting
Yeah.
spring in there in autumn, and they'd be
Well, no,
they'd be harvesting
2021.
now, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So it
yeah,
will become soon.
yeah. So 2021 hops will be due at some point soon.
Yeah, over the next few months.
That would be brilliant. That would be brilliant. So yeah, feel free to make more of those beers and send them out to us, Tricky, because that I was a really good base, and I really enjoyed
that's
that
the
beer.
whole plan. That's the whole plan. It's going to be a regular feature, hopefully. But you guys need to maybe chip in and do a few as well. Just to
Cool,
keep
cool.
it going.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
I've got a 43-degree fermented Enigma lager if you want it.
I'm not sure it will reflect that well on the Enigma hops. That one, to be honest.
Wait, why don't you tweet Elon Musk, because I'm fairly certain he needs some rocket fuel for his next launch to Mars.
I'm not so sure about the polluting capabilities of that if you were to burn it. I'm fairly sure there's going to be a lot of like hexanol in there and stuff like that rather than just ethanol. So
it would smell nice of Enigma, I'm sure.
I would. Yeah, it's cool. Well, I'll bob him an email, see what he says.
Why not?
So other than that, I think that is the state of brewing as it stands currently within us and to a lesser extent within the UK community as a whole. Stewie Prince may turn on his B80. We've got dried quake. We've got floor malted Maris Otter. And for some reason, the people who brought us the 3.5 grand all-in-one have decided to make a 100-litre fermenter. I don't get it. I think the future is bright, and I think if you follow certain routes, you can have a true experience now with home brewing. But I honestly think everybody needs a Kamado to go with it.
Too true.
Yeah, I just got my Weber built today, so
That's a whole different podcast, though, isn't it? Maybe
is.
We'll do that one in the.
What are you doing, Andy? Get yourself
I'm baby steps.
You know what we need to call that podcast? We need to call it Vaping and Smoke. Vaping and smoking. Me and Owen can supply the vaping. Tricky can supply the smoking. Andy's just got a Weber, so we can ignore him.
Beer meets food podcast.
Oh, mate, beer meets food. We're in.
We could do a podcast on barbecue.
We could.
Barbecue.
To be fair, boys, after the ribs I produced today, I'd happily do it. They were a shizzle. So let's call it there. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much to Boel for supplying the ITAP. Andy B,
awesome.
well done on your win. Well played, son. And I will speak to Boel and get that sent out as soon as I can. I want to say thank you to people who've joined us on the live YouTube channel. And thank you to anybody who listens to this podcast. You may notice a new addition to the front page of the homepage. If you wish to make a donation to cover the server cost, that would be greatly appreciated. But please, it is just there as a donate button. Other than that, Tricky, you're a legend. Owen, fucking love your hair. Andy, thanks for coming. Your beard's awesome.
Yes.
Let's do this again in a couple of weeks, shall we, boys?
Yeah, why not?
Let's do it.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Hasta
See you later.
mañana.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers, bitches.
Bye. 2 hours and 51. Jesus Christ, we can't have talk.
No,
some
but we
shit, can't we?
chopped. No, but remember we restarted, so it was.
Oh,
Was
wow.
it 4?
2 hours
Oh,
and
it was
45
4
minutes.
Need a pish.
I really enjoyed that one. It was good to just talk randomly about weird stuff. It was good.
Yeah, it was good.
See you later, ST4 Brewhouse, whoever you are. Have fun. Bye. Oh, ST, that's Mark Trentham.
Yeah.
Legend. Marky Marks joined us. What a superstar. He kept it quiet, didn't he? Right, for those of you who wish to join us in the chat, I will drop this link. The password is that. If you want to join us for the after party for the next probably, I don't know, 20 minutes, 25 minutes or whatever, feel free to click the link, get yourselves in, and we will see you soon. I'm just about to terminate the YouTube live stream, so thanks very much for watching. You guys are awesome. We love you all, and get yourselves onto the chat. See you in a bit. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.